Good evening.
Good evening.
Call the Monday, August 16, 2021 meeting of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners to order. Welcome, everyone. At this time, will you join me for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Dear Lord, our Heavenly Father, thank you for once again for allowing us to come to the place where we will handle the people's business. Give us the strength, the guidance, and the courage to do what is right. Continue to bless each and every family that's represented here today, each and every family that's represented on this podium, and all our soldiers that serve and represent us here in these fantastic United States of America. We are very grateful for your love and for your compassion. In Jesus Christ's Son, Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. That brings us to our public comment period this evening. As you know, this is an opportunity for citizens to engage with the commissioners and to share their thoughts. We will ask each speaker to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. We will also ask each speaker when they come to the podium to please give us their full name and home address. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you, Madam Manager. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers this evening.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. This brings us to item 1. It's approval of the agenda.
Can I get a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 2, I believe we have some presentations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Manager.
What you got?
Again, good evening. I am so proud of the 2 men we are recognizing tonight. Cumberland County Attorney Rick Moorfield and District Attorney Billy West. Mr. Moorfield, will you join me at the podium?
Yeah, he got a work card. He's in the national board. I was thinking, no, he's in the national board, man.
Mr. Moorfield has spent much of his legal career representing and serving local governments across the state of North Carolina. Prior to being appointed as the Cumberland County Attorney in 2010, Mr. Moorfield was the county attorney and county manager in Sampson County and an assistant county attorney in Cumberland County. He has also served as county attorney for Macon and Alamance County. In addition, he is a former Alamance County Commissioner. He is a native of North Carolina and a graduate of the University of North Carolina School of Law. And he earned a master's degree in public administration from UNC Greensboro. He is a knowledge expert in local government law, recognized both across the state of North Carolina and national. Mr. Moorfield was named the Outstanding County Attorney of the Year in 2019 by his peers at the North Carolina Association of County Attorneys. He is a former president of that association. Most recently, He was elected as the president of the National Association of County Civil Attorneys, a position he currently holds. He is also a member of the National Association of Counties Board of Directors. The Board of Commissioners would like to present this clock to Mr. Moorfield in recognition of his service as the president of the National Association of County Civil Attorneys and a member of NACO Board of Directors. It is my privilege and my honor to present you this clock on behalf of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners.
That's quite surprising. I think it's more worth it. Thank you.
I don't know what you said, but thank you.
Now, District Attorney Bill West. Come forward, sir.
Congratulations.
Charles, y'all talk, sir. His name on the back. He didn't know. I thought he didn't know that. Go ahead,
Mr.
Charles.
West was elected as Cumberland County District Attorney in 2010, after serving 10 years as an Assistant District Attorney for former DA Ed Grants. As Cumberland County District Attorney, Mr. West leads the 4th largest district attorney's office in North Carolina. He has created a repeat offender program to identify and successfully prosecute offenders who continue to commit serious crimes in our community. Mr. West and his staff have partnered with law enforcement and others in the court system on initiatives such as the Gun Violence Task Force, Drug Court, Sobriety Court, Veterans Court, and Human Trafficking Court. I would like to thank Mr. West for his work with the expungement clinics, which have helped more than 1,000 people who were eligible to expunge a one-time nonviolent offense from their records. Mr. West is also involved in state and national organizations. He is a member of the North Carolina District Attorneys Association of the North Carolina Conference of District Attorneys. He was elected by his fellow district attorneys in the state to serve as president of the North Carolina Conference of District Attorneys, which selected him to serve as North Carolina's representative on the National District Attorneys Association Board. In July, he was sworn in as the president of the National District Attorneys Association after serving as the association's treasurer. He was born and raised in Cumberland County, and he received his bachelor's degree from North Carolina State University and his law degree from Campbell University. The Board of Commissioners would like to present this clock to Mr. West in recognition of his service as the president of the National District Attorneys Association.
I'd like to thank the commissioners and thank everyone who's here as well. I won't talk long, although us lawyers like to do that. Y'all probably know that. But in any event, I will say that I almost became emotional on the day I was getting sworn in, as it was about 15 minutes before we started. And he had mentioned it months ago, but I didn't really follow up. And in walked my good friend, and as he calls himself, my big brother, Commissioner Charles Evans. So that was quite an honor to have him there. And it is an honor to be president of the National District Attorneys Association. But as I said that day, and I'll say every day, the biggest honor of my professional career is representing my hometown of Fayetteville, my home county of Cumberland, where I was born and raised as your district attorney.
The reason that these two men were recognized, I'm sure you probably picked it up when I was speaking of them, is because it was said that this is the first time that in Cumberland County we've had two national presidents here in the same room. And what an honor it is. At this time, I would like to call on the Vice Chairman, Mr. Glenn Adams, Commissioner Adams, for recognition.
Mr. Chairman, can you come down with me? It's, I think that in line of this is I'm gonna present it to the county commissioner because the recipient can't be here. And since you're the chair, if you come on down, I'll explain it a lot better. As we are aware, we all serve on this board of county commissioners, and we are part of a state association, the North Carolina State County Commissioner Association. And off of this board, which is 100 counties represented, we've had 3 state presidents that come for Cumberland County. We've had Kenneth Edge, who was, I saw him Saturday night there, Mr. B.R. King, and Virginia Oliver. And so while we were at the state convention, they have what they call the Hall of Fame. And one of our own, Virginia Thompson Oliver, was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I think it's remarkable that happened. I'm going to read you the remarks of Kevin Leonard, who is the Executive Director of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. Part of what makes our organization so strong is we remember our past, and particularly those leaders who came before us who make a difference. During the past year, we've experienced many firsts and realized how important it is to take a moment and reflect on other firsts that matter to us. Former Cumberland County Commissioner Virginia Thompson Oliver was the first female commissioner elected in the county and our association's first female president. Past President Oliver was appointed commissioner in 1978 following the untimely death of her husband, Larry Thompson, who was serving as a commissioner and with aspirations to run for governor. The county attorney at the time, Heman Clark, encouraged her to complete her husband's term, and she did. Past President Oliver went on to run for 3 more successful terms and served as the chair of her board. She became the first female to serve as our association's president in 1985 and 86. She is known to have been instrumental in the development of Cape Fear Valley Medical Center, the county library, and the merger of the city and county systems in Cumberland County. She clearly made a positive mark on her community and without a doubt our association. We are truly honored to induct past President Oliver into the NCACC Hall of Fame. She could not be there to accept the award. I accepted on her behalf, and as chairman, she cannot be here today. She's about to have some surgery, but I wanted to be able to give this to our board of commissioners, and hopefully when she's up and about, she'll be able to come and give her own remarks. It's the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, Virginia Oliver, Hall of Fame inductee, class of 2021, the only one, and she was a former Cumberland County Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, I present that to the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners. I think that salute to all of us, the things that are done in Cumberland County, and so thank you so much for allowing me to be able to do that. I think Ms. Oliver is watching us virtual, so if you got some remarks from the board, that would indeed be. So Virginia, congratulations.
Well, we are very proud of former Commissioner Oliver, and I've always wanted to say this. I hope you are listening. I got this at my house.
You bringing it up here? You can eat right there. He's taking it to his house, right? Virginia, I saved it for you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, members of the Board of Commissioners. You know, it was one of my church members says, a poor frog who won't croak in his own pond. And so I think it's important for us to always remember those who served before us and with us. So thank you.
And thank you, sir. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. That brings us to item number 3, your consent agenda.
Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Can I get a motion? Oh, I'm
Second.
sorry. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you so much. County Manager.
Yes, sir. That brings us to item number 4, our public hearings. We'll begin with our uncontested rezoning cases. The first case is case P21-26, And we have our Planning and Inspections Director, Mr. Rawls Howard. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Ms. Karen. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Good evening.
Good evening.
So the first item that I have on the agenda is case P 2126. Please bear with me a second. So as you can, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So as you can see here, where this case is located, but it's in the Grays Creek area. As you can see, that's highlighted by the star on the map. So the applicant and the owner is Northwood Investments. On behalf of Gallberry Run Land Development LLC, the request is to go from A1 to R20. So for those of you that may or may not know, A1 is one unit per 2 acres down to 1 unit per half acre, or 20,000 square feet, for about 14.04 acres, as you can see there. So you can see the subject property here is pretty much surrounded by a lot of residential as it stands right now. You can see the zoning here, so there is some precedent out there for RR. We have RR and R6A that's out there in addition to the A1. As I said, this is uncontested, so it went to the planning board. It was recommended by staff. It's compliant with all of our land use plans, and it was recommended by the planning board as well. So I'll be glad to go into the case if you deem it necessary.
Okay. Are there any?
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
Is there water and sewer out there?
I do, no, sir, there's not.
It's down in the Grays Creek area? Y'all know me? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
You
can
gotta
we have the
open
public
Oh,
hearing?
I'm sorry. Open the public hearing. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
Close the public hearing. Now, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Yes, sir. Yes, Commissioner Lancaster.
In case P 2126, planning inspection staff, I move to recommend approval of the zoning request from A1 Agricultural District to R20 Residential District, and find the request consistent with the South Central Land Use Plan designation of low-density residential. Approval of the request is reasonable and in the public interest, as the district requested is in harmony with the surrounding existing land use and zone. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Lancaster, Council, and Keefe, and Commissioner Booth. Voting in opposition, Chairman Evans, Commissioner Adams, and Commissioner Stewart. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Yes, sir.
All right, so moving on to case P 2127. Let me pull these up. This case is located, as you can see by the location map, between Fayetteville and the Hope Mills area. Start this. The applicant's Sharon A. Edwards. The request is from R10 to go to C1P for Planned Local District. This is on Camden Road as you start to head out toward the Rockfish intersection that's there, but you can see it highlighted on the section there in red. I believe the plan was to put some a vinyl flooring business, if I'm not mistaken, is what the applicant has told us. So it's got some hodgepodge of commercial and residential uses around it, but you can see by here where it sits in relation to the city of Hope Mills and what's around it. You have a convenience store and some other types of assorted businesses and a church. But you can see the zoning as well here. It's pretty much set up that intersection for a lot of commercial zoning by the CP, the C1P, and so forth that you can see on the map. Staff had recommended it. It was compliant with all of our plans. It went to the planning board, and they have recommended it as well.
Okay, thank you. Open the public hearing.
There are no speakers.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question for Mr.
Yes. Are there any questions?
Yes. Rawls, this is surrounded by residential, pretty much. Now, the C1P up there, is there anything on that property right now?
I believe there is. I'm looking at my staff, so there is something on that property, I believe, right now. I can go through this slideshow. We can see the actual subject property. Yeah, so the subject property right now is a house that, it's my understanding, that had been used as a business before. But again, as far as the plans for what's going to happen in the future, I don't know if the applicant, I don't know if the applicant's here, but if they're going to tear it down or rebuild or just operate out of the existing structure.
And to feed off of Commissioner Adams' last question, I don't believe there's water and sewer on this, or sewer on this line either.
It's got water but no sewer.
Right. Okay.
Are there any more questions or discussions? If not, I entertain a motion. Going again. Entertain a motion.
I'll take it.
Yes,
In the
sir.
case of P21-27, I move to deny the rezoning request from R10 Residential District to C1P Plan Local Business District and find the request not consistent with the Southwest Cumberland County Land Use Plan. Denial of this request is reasonable in the public interest because of the residential area surrounding it.
Is there a second?
Come on, guys.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Council, Keefe, Chairman Evans, Commissioner Adams, and Commissioner Stewart. Voting in opposition, Commissioners Lancaster and Commissioner Booth.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on. I believe case P2131 has been deferred to the September 20th meeting, so I'm going to move on to case P2136 if that is with permission from the board.
Okay.
36. So this case is more in the Cedar Creek areas. You can see that's highlighted by the star up on the map. You can see where it is pretty much in the south, the southeastern part of the county. The applicant and the owner is Kathy Tatum Vinson. The request is to go from A1 Agricultural District to CP Planned Commercial District. You can see the unusually shaped property there that's highlighted in red that's crosshatched. You can see that it sits near the intersection of Tabor Church Roads and Stedman Cedar Creek Road. It sits pretty much in a commercial node, has been identified on our plans, which calls for a little bit more intense commercial development. So with that being said, staff had recommended the request. It went to the planning board, and they ultimately had supported the request as well, too. I'll be happy to open up the presentation if there are questions or anything of that nature.
Open the public hearing. Are there any?
We do have one speaker this evening. He wishes to speak in favor. Mr. Steve Oliverio with Bartlett Engineering.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Steve Oliverio. I'm with Bartlett Engineering, 1906 Nash Street in Wilson. We are here representing the owner and the developer. We're pleased to be here with staff's approval and planning board's favorable recommendation, and simply here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other?
I just have a question. Is that
Yes,
okay?
sir.
Thank you, sir. Is the weird little line, is that a natural boundary of like a creek or an old waterbed or something like that?
Yes, sir.
Is it active now?
Yes, sir.
What about storms? How does that get affected?
Commissioner, we will need to go through all the normal steps of an engineering process. As this moves forward, we will have to be responding to DOT to follow all the state regulations on the road, as well as DEQ for any stormwater treatment, as well as Cumberland County and the town of Fayetteville.
Yeah, I was going to say too that, I'll just add a little bit to that. Per the staff report, there's no identified flood zones on this property at all. We checked for wetlands. There's no identified wetlands that we could find with the data that we have. So basically, the creek is just there. There are state rules about being able to stay off a certain distance from the creek, I believe, but that's all part of the development process that the gentleman brought up.
Okay. Are there any more questions or comments? If not, is there a motion?
We can close the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting
That's okay.
that. Public hearing is closed. Now,
I got a question.
Or discussion?
Well, I do have a question. As Mr. Booth was talking about that, Locks Creek sits down below this, does it not?
I believe so.
And that whole neighborhood floods because all of this water just rolls down into Locks Creek. And the city is almost ready to put a moratorium on building in Locks Creek. I have pushed on Locks Creek. I think our assistant manager would tell you in terms of the debris that was in that creek that was around there. These houses flood down in Locks Creek. And when we're upstream and uphill, and they tell me they haven't done the surveys, they haven't done the studies, to do this just beats up on all of those folk down there in Locks Creek. It's wrong. That whole neighborhood, every hurricane that comes through there floods, the creek floods on just a good normal rain day. So I would be opposed to this without those studies, because I'm just going to tell you, all of those people down in Locks Creek are going to have it's going to be bad. And all of that water flows down that way, and it's just wrong to be able to do those folk like that. So I would encourage this board, and I think, Mr. Bush, you asked that question, that's why it's there, but it does go right down into Locks Creek.
Commissioner Booth.
Yeah, and that's kind of a lead into my question. Is there plans you're talking about would have to comply with? Is there any reason why we couldn't defer this rather than hear it tonight without that information? I think that is kind of crucial as to how dry or wet the bed is.
That would be up to you. If you want to defer, we can bring some information back at the next meeting to get more clarification on it.
If it gets voted down, they can't reapply for, what, a year or so?
Yes, sir.
Could you ask him how long it would take to get those studies or those maps?
Steve Oliverio again. Commissioner, those studies with the stormwater and all that, that's all part of the site plan and construction plan process that we have to go through. We are not allowed to raise the amount of flow going into that creek that would affect any downstream properties by either putting in a retention pond or whatever may be required on this site. We're not allowed to raise the amount of flow that goes into that creek and goes downstream. So we're not at the point with site plan and planning development to give you that information. I can tell you that we are required by all state, local, and federal regulations to treat our stormwater before it leaves the site.
Okay, Commissioner Keith.
Thank you. Do we know what the purpose of this, why it's being gone to commercial?
At this time, the current developer is looking at just doing a small 8,000 to 10,000 square foot retail store.
Okay. But you have to understand, once we say commercial and we zone it commercial, he could do pretty much whatever he wants on it, and we don't know what that effect may or may have. I understand you have to do your survey when you go through, but it's a bit of a risk for me to put something in commercial without surrounded by agriculture and residential without knowing what it was going to be. Because once we do it, it's done.
Yeah.
So that was my only comment I had.
And if you go commercial, you're going to have some parking lot, you're going to have some hard surfaces, that water's going to run. I mean, that's just the nature, sorry, Mr. Chairman. That's just the nature of how it's going to be. You may not add to it, but we know how that's going to be. And I think that's some of the things that, I always talk about, how does this affect all of those other land things as we do these rezoning, because it really has a consequence. And they got this whole neighborhood that's sitting down here, and it's just, we just asking for some trouble. They're asking for some trouble.
Okay.
We did not take it.
No more questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, if this is leaning towards a total rejection, we would prefer to pull our request and come back and meet with staff and come up with some additional information. We do not want to lose a year.
Right.
All right. Thank you, sir. Is there a motion for deferment?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. Make sure I'm
So
following
much
this
for
correctly.
uncontested.
I'm on to 40, all right. So the next case is P 2140. You can see by the highlighted map that it's up in the northeastern section of the county, up near the Godwin area. So just wanted to, pretty simple request for this one. This is the applicant is Michael Longhany, the H&S Terry Faircloth. They want to request to go from A1 Agricultural District to R40. This is a proposal for a cutout. So the lot that you see here would allow the applicant, the parent tract is currently sitting right this lot doesn't exist yet, but it will exist if the rezoning is approved. So the request is for 0.92 acres for the house that currently exists on there now. I think it's my understanding that the applicant wants to add another house to the back part of the property, and they want to separate this house off. So you can see it's pretty much all agricultural land. You see some single-family residential and a manufactured homes within the area. As I stated before, you have some R40 as a precedent that's sitting out there in the county now, just down the street, but for the most part, it's a lot of A1 out there. So as you can see, the house is currently existing. It would be to subdivide this lot off and then to be able to do another house in the back. So if you would like me to go into the presentation, I'll be glad to do that. Staff supported it. It complied with the plans, and when it went to the planning board, they also supported it as well.
Yes, sir, go through the presentation.
Yes, sir. All right. So as I said before, this is the house that you can see here. That's proposed to be cut out off of Scotty Godwin Road and Stewart Road. When you look at what's out there, they do have PWC water that is there. There is no sewer. There's not so much of a concern. There's a little bit of concern of hydric soils in the back part of the property for any kind of septic, but it does have water. When we looked at the plan, the Wade land use plan calls for this to be 1 acre residential, so this pretty much is fitting the bill as far as what we define by R40 as being acre lots. Is to limit the location amount of manufactured housing, so by them subdividing this off, there's a house that's sitting out there now, and it does provide for the opportunity to do some more development in the back that would be compatible with the area. So we felt that the request was plan compliant. As I stated before, this is the subject property. This is the house that's there now. They're actually doing a lot of renovations to it. They've taken an old house and basically started to upfit it. When you look down, or look north, I should say, looking up the road, along Stewart Road, you can see the subject property immediately on your left. This is the view that's looking across the street. It's just a farm field. And then this is looking south on Stewart Road. You can see the house that's on the right, along with the zoning sign right there in front of the porta potty that you can see. So again, staff had recommended approval. When it went to the planning board, they also recommended approval by a 9-0 vote.
Thank you, sir. Open the public hearing.
There
Madam
are
Clerk?
no speakers.
There are no speakers. Close the public hearing. Are there any questions or discussion by the board? Yes, Commissioner Booth.
The dotted line, okay, you go to the first boundary that it's a cutout of. That's good.
Right here?
That's
Okay.
good, yeah. Does the same family own the outer lying area that it's in?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay,
Mhm.
do they own anything like the lot behind them or anything? Is this, that's what I'm saying, now what's the extent of
Just this
their
parent
growth?
tract right here. Just this parent tract. I don't believe they own the land that's on, that's surrounding them. They just own all of this, including the area in blue, and they want to split this house off from their existing property.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Lancaster.
For case P21-40, I move to approve the rezoning request from A1 Agricultural District to R40 Residential District and find the request consistent with the Wade Study Area Land Use, which calls for 1 acre residential in this location. The request is reasonable and in the public interest because R40 Residential District would allow dwelling types and density that are comparable. What is that? Can't see. Compatible, okay. And in harmony with the surrounding land use activities and zoning.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioner, that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I clarify the second to the motion?
It was either me or council.
Very good, thank you.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Yes, sir. Moving on to case P21-44. You can see where this is located. I believe it's out past, out close to Airport Road, but you can see where it is highlighted on the location map. So the applicant owner is Emmons and Wheeler LLC. The agent is Carla Emmons and Stephen Wheeler. The request is to go from MP to CP, which is our workhorse commercial district. But you can see by the map, this is Airport Road that runs in this area that you can see here. I know this is a rather busy map with a lot of lines, but here's Airport Road and then here's Gillespie Street. So yeah, I think you guys pretty much know where that is. The property in question is highlighted here in this red with the crosshatch. It's pretty much surrounded by a lot of commercial operations. You can see here that's highlighted. You have a shed dealer, the fire department, equipment sales, convenience stores, and so forth and so on. But you can see it's pretty much a commercial corridor. You can see the zoning here. For the most part, a lot of it is zoned for CP. And you can see a lot of the industrial zone here. It is close to the city of Fayetteville. It has PWC water and sewer. So when we went to when staff looked this over, we said it was compliant with the plans, which I believe calls for more heavy commercial out here. And when it went to the planning board, it was also supported by that board as well, too. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to go into the presentation if need be.
Are there any questions at this time? If not, we're going to open the public hearing.
There are no speakers.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Close the public hearing now. Are there any questions?
I got one question. I only have one question. I always have one question. As we talk about this and we talk about planning, coming in our community, sometime coming down 301, it may not have anything to do with this, but I'm just asking. Do we require these folks to put any trees up to make it look nice? The one thing that we kind of lack sometime here in this community is that green space and some of that stuff. You know, one time the city of Fayetteville you had to have trees and you couldn't have barbed wire and all of that. But, you know, you come down airport, get off the airport and come down there and come up 301 and it's just coming into our community just doesn't look well. I don't know if when we talk about planning, we talk about in this with these people.
We do have some basic street tree type planning requirements for certain developments. I think it's fair to say that when, especially with newer staff that we have come on board, we've identified possibly beefing those up and maybe doing some overlays for some corridor entrances into the county in certain areas. I think it's a larger planning discussion that we can have, but we can certainly broach that subject because that's something that we as the senior management in the department have identified as something that we could probably stand to beef up a little bit.
Thank you. I just wanted.
Well, you know what? It's going to take a little bit more than trees.
You gotta start somewhere, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, in the case of P 21-44, I move to approve the rezoning request from MP Plan Industrial District to CP Plan Commercial District and find the request consistent with the South Central Cumberland Land Use Plan, which calls for heavy commercial at this location. The request is reasonable in the public interest because commercial development is compatible with the surrounding area and uses.
It's been moved as second. All in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess we're moving into the contested rezoning cases on the agenda. So the first case we have is case P2128. As you can see where this is highlighted here, out toward the Stedman area. So this case was heard at the planning board in May. So there's since then we've had a lot of dialogue with both the applicant and the developer, and we've heard a lot of feedback from the public. So with your permission, commissioners, what I'd like to do is I'm going to walk through this presentation, show you what the planning board looked like, and then since the planning board meeting to where we are right now, we've had some discussions with the applicant who has offered up conditions and some new things he would like for you to consider. I have put those conditions at your dais for you to take a look at. But I was going to go through that and then let the applicant get up and speak about his project, about however you see fit. So,
Can I ask one question?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Adams.
And I know you got all those modifications, whatever, and you expect us to read them tonight and look at them. But that's kind of what the planning board does. So why wouldn't these go back to the planning board for them to be able to hear it, to make some recommendation to this board? I mean, that's what the planning board does. I don't see why it skips over that process, even in the modification stage, because that's what they do. I mean, they have a much longer time to go through it. You got staff to go through it. So why didn't we do that process? I mean, that makes more sense to me than bringing it directly here.
yeah. Well, I mean, the planning board ended up denying it, and so, you know, at that particular discussion, that there was no discussion about adding conditions. I think the applicant took the feedback from the planning board and then said, I want to be able to put this to the Board of Commissioners, which, as far as I know, he can do that in front of this body. I mean, but if you want to defer it back to the planning
But I
board,
mean, it
we
just
can do
makes
that.
sense that that's what the planning board does. I'm only one. I'm not gonna defer it. I just asked the question
Sure.
that they have a lot more time to ask these questions, answer these questions, to work through that process.
Sure.
Here is either up and down vote, and it's
Right.
gonna be done. So I don't really care. It just makes more sense to me that we may need to look at that process if you're gonna do modifications after, because then that vote means absolutely nothing to me of what the planning board did if you're presenting something entirely different and new from what they heard. That's just.
Yeah, I mean, but
I'm just one.
Yeah, so like at this particular point, we had a lot of internal discussions about that. So, but they did, I mean, our threshold was that he's not changing the plan as far as the layout, the streets. Maybe you're looking at smaller lots and things like that. So, I mean, like, there was a critical point of, is it substantial change to the plan that was enough to kick it back to the planning board? But after we sat there and we went through them, I mean, after I show you the first plan and then show you what he's proposed, there's not a whole heck of a lot of difference. And
Well, you told me it was a big difference between the modifications, so if it's not a big difference, it's not.
Well, as far as the layout, I mean, but I can get into that here in a minute and let you take a look at it. If you feel like it, we can kick it back to the planning
Whichever way
board.
you want to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Proceed.
Thank you. So the applicant owner is Moley's Farms LLC. The request is go from A1 to R30 conditional district or CZ conditional zoning. You can see this is John Nunnery Road that you can see highlighted here to the eastern part or the eastern boundary of the case. You can see that this is the lot that's in question, and this is Mary McCall Road here that borders it to the west. So the proposed acreage is about plus or minus 48 acres for the site. Pretty much surrounding this, you have a lot of agricultural land and single-family residential. Not too much past that. You can see a lot of the zoning out here. We do have R30 that sits just to the south of this request. You do have some cases of R40 up along John Nunnery, and then you have R40 that's down here. But for the most part, it's primarily A1 zoning out in this area. There's no water and sewer, but the soils are generally adequate for septic. You do have a little bit here in the corner. There were some concerns, but I know talking with their engineer that the applicant has worked around that, which you'll see in the plan. When staff had looked at the Stedman land use plan, of which this is pertinent to this particular request, it does split a boundary right here that you can see. But for the most part, the applicant's requesting 30,000 square foot lots. The rural density residential in brown calls for 30,000. Over here calls for 20,000. So the 30,000 is obviously bigger than the 20,000. So staff felt it was compliant with our plans that are out there for both of these designations. So this was the plan that was presented to the Joint Planning Board. So this is what I just wanted to show you here. This plan was contemplated under a zero lot line development, which at that particular time, not all the lots in the development were 30,000 square feet. There were some setbacks that were put in there that were not standard to R30. So there was a lot of stuff in here that were related to lots and setbacks. But you can see the general layout. There are 52 lots, I believe. Yeah, there are 52 lots that are contemplated in this subdivision. When you look at the subject property, just sort of go through these, pretty much wooded. A lot of it's wooded. The back part of Mary McCall Road is open field. But you can see this is the east view, just looking across the street from John Nunnery Road. This is the south view. You can see the property on the right with the adequately displayed sign for our rezoning. Mary McCall, you can see, as I said before, it's more of an open field. Again, we put signs out there. As you can see, this is looking south with the property immediately on your left. This is looking across the street. And this is looking north. So staff had recommended approval of the request. When it went to the planning board, they had recommended denial. There were some concerns, I believe, over traffic and density. That were the main things that were brought up for this particular request. So since that particular time, and I'll let the applicant elaborate just a little bit more, he has submitted a new plan. So as you see here, the plan is pretty much, as far as the layout, is the same as the other one. The only thing the applicant has done for this particular request is that he's now taken away the zero lot line, so there's no zero lot lines anymore. So this request meets all R30 setback requirements and the density requirements for minimum lot size. As I said before, with him doing away with the zero lot line, it pretty much goes to a straight R30 request. He's reduced the lots from 52 down to 43. at an R30 density, I'd calculated at a back of a napkin type of estimate that the lots that would be allowed under R30 would be roughly about 56 or 55, 56, so he's proposing 42, so he's reduced those lots. And also, something that he's adding is he's adding a 30-foot wide continuous perimeter buffer around the whole subdivision. A lot of folks were talking about like the rural character, how does it not or fit in with the rural area? There's a lot of existing vegetation on the site, so the applicant has proposed to keep the perimeter buffer around the entire property. And for areas that do not have existing trees, he would plant trees according to the street tree planting rate for the areas that don't have trees already. So I think it's fair to say that there's some consideration for trying to preserve the trees that are out there and try to screen it from view. I know this is a lot to read. I'm not going to sit here and read this, and I wouldn't expect you to. Basically, the first one says that the applicant wishes to do away with the zero lot line. The big lot, 42, will not be subdivided, and all the rest of that stuff there is basically how he's going to handle the landscaping and the perimeter buffing for the site. So that's it, Commissioners. I mean, if you have any other questions, I'll be trying to answer. I think for the purposes of this, unless you are seeking a deferment back to the planning board, would be that the board would have to agree to accept the plan and the conditions before you go into any discussion of accepting or denying the vote. That's all I have.
I have a question before you do that.
Open the public hearing.
All right.
Are there any speakers?
We have 4 speakers in favor and 4 speakers in opposition.
Okay.
Our first speaker in favor is Mr. Martin Jones.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, Mr.
Commissioner,
Jones.
my name is Martin Jones. I'm the mayor of town of Stedman. This is a growth opportunity for us. And, we were just trying to, as we all know, in Cumberland County, Grays Creek to the south of us, Hoke County to the west of us, and then on the west side of I-95, you've gone pretty much to the north side of us. So Stedman is actually going to be the next big movement as far as expansion. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get these things in a position of where we can, grow, but we want to grow in the right manner. And we actually have two other subdivisions that are in the works right now. They're inside of the town limits of Stedman, and so we're growing pretty quick, and we just want to make sure that we grow in the right direction. And one of the things that I saw where they brought it back, that they put the buffer in and reduced the lot sizes, that's going to be a big plus for satisfying the community and the people around it.
All right, thank you, sir.
And appreciate you guys coming last week to our ribbon cutting for all the expansion that we had there at our rec center. Thank you so much for that. And,
You're welcome.
Because it's all about growth, and we want to just make sure we go in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our second speaker in favor is Mr. Thomas Neville.
Mr. Neville, welcome.
I'm just glad to take this mask off. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for hearing me tonight. I believe, if we could, the 2 people who signed up behind me are going to concede their time to me so that, being a lawyer, I would get to speak the remainder of the time. I don't know if they need to state that on the record or not.
No, sir.
Okay. All right.
You speak your time.
So here we go. So my client is actually Mossy Farms LLC, and I want to introduce that entity to you because of essentially who the members are. That's Steve Bunce, Maxton Bunce, and Rhett Bunce. That's important because they live in this area. This is where they live, and they want to move forward with this project, but they intend to remain there for a very long time. It's not an outside developer who's not going to remain into the community. And I think you'll see when we go through the site plan, most of the changes they've agreed to, which should not appear before the planning board, are made with the neighborhood in mind, with longevity in mind, and the idea is they want to preserve the rural character as much as they possibly can and still develop this area. Also, Mossy Farms it's actually it's spelled M-O-L-C-I-E, which was the great-grandmother. So it could be Molsey, but it's pronounced Mossy. They own a lot of farmland in addition, individually or as the entity. They have no intent to stop farming. This is just a particular tract that's really not very suitable for farming. What I'm told is that the land will only basically support tobacco or sweet potatoes in addition to the wooded area, and it's just not very suitable for farming. So it is 48 acres. If we could possibly put the zoning map back up. That one.
I got you right here. Okay. That one right there.
So this, obviously the property is 48 acres. It's identified by the blue and the yellow marks. If I could, R40 is up to the north of it. R30 is directly below it. In addition, it's the Wheatland subdivision that is where you see Harvest Grain, Cherry Bark, Eastfield. It's my understanding those lots are all 1 acre or less. I don't know why it's not designated as R30 or something else. Perhaps it's an older subdivision. The point is, it's a large subdivision immediately to our south. And then there's another subdivision identified as R40, which I believe is the Tyndallwood subdivision. So I don't think it's really correct to characterize this as primarily A1. If you go down these two roads, Mary McCall and John Nunnery, there is a mixture of A1 and of development subdivisions. And I think what we propose is consistent with the existing subdivisions. Again, if we could please, sir, go to the...
Okay, sir, thank you.
He gave you 3 minutes.
He deferred his time,
He did 3 minutes.
but I think he deferred the time for the other people.
No, that's not happening. Thank you.
I'm a little confused by you've ended my time. If I'm the...
No,
if I'm
each
actually-
person is allotted 3 minutes, sir.
I'm the-
And I didn't hear anything about deferment, and it doesn't work that way. Each person have 3 minutes.
Okay. For the
Thank
rec-
you.
For the record, I would object in that they consider their time to me, and I counsel for the applicant.
Okay, well, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, he did actually state that the 2 people behind him, which is all the folks on the far side, wanted to concede their time to him. It's a board decision as to whether or not you want to allow that. So it really, he's asking, you have 2 more people that would be doing 3 minutes. He's saying they're not going to speak, and he would get the full 9 minutes, but that's a board decision to allow, whether or not to allow that. The board did not take action on it when he requested.
Okay, sir, can the action be taken now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, is there a motion on the floor to continue with this, with the public hearing where everyone will have the opportunity to speak 3 minutes? Or can we take a deferment?
I like that motion.
Yes, sir.
That he gets the remainder of the allotted time.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
That is unanimous.
He would have an additional 6 minutes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
No problem.
So, again, if we could go to the site plan.
Yep, the new one?
Yes, sir. So again, this is the new one, and just to reiterate the changes, primarily we've gone from 52 lots to 43 lots. I'd also like you to note that there's 2 entrances to this subdivision, one on John Nunnery Road, one on Mary McCall. And this is a little bit unique. What we've tried very much to do is to concentrate the larger lots towards the actual road frontage so that you preserve more of the rural character as you drive past the subdivision. Also, if we didn't rezone this, the number of driveway permits arguably we could obtain from DOT are probably more than 20 even. So actually by doing the subdivision, concentrating the lots in this manner, we only end up with 7 possible driveway permits and may not even use them all. But again, this was all to preserve the more of a rural character. We've mentioned the buffer zone, which I think is very important as well. Again, it's a reduction down to 43 lots. I've passed a packet out to everyone, or at least the clerk did, I believe, and primarily most of those exhibits or attachments refer to the land use plan or the future land use plan. And the very first one is number 3. It's just the first page of the land use future land use plan to kind of give you some idea of what you're looking at. The rest of it is excerpts. And what's very important is if you look at number 4, which was essentially the previous slide that we had here, it basically shows that the classification for the future land use plan is suburban density residential and rural density residential. What's important is that both of those classifications allow for R30. Therefore, R30 is consistent with the land use plan. And again, that's, if you, in your packet, that's number 4, showing the land use plan. I've put packet 5 in there. That's the statute that y'all have referenced a number of times already. Basically, if a proposed use is consistent with the land use plan, if you don't adopt it, then you have to provide essentially reasons why you have not. Because again, this is consistent with the land use plan. Table 6 actually shows you, it's a crosswalk table. It shows you that the R30 is consistent with the land use plan, specifically as to the suburban density residential and rural density residential. Again, staff has recommended approval of this specific site plan because it is consistent with the Stedman land use plan. They've also requested that the applicant, that all internal lots have access from internal streets, which we do. The site plan shows that. And they've also essentially requested that we have certain setbacks, which again, not only have we agreed to R30 setbacks, we've also agreed to a specific buffer around the entirety of the property. I believe that there was maybe some issues before the planning board related to traffic. If you look at the packet from the staff, you'll see that the average annual daily traffic on any of these roads is very minimal, extremely minimal, and we do not believe that there's really any issue with traffic. Again, we've got 2 entrances into the subdivision to assist in traffic, less entrances on the highway, so we believe that that is a good response to that. As to water and sewer, it's not provided, but in the Stedman land use plan, it specifically states that R30, that both well and septic is suitable for R30. So again, it is still consistent with the land use plan. My understanding is that to bring sewer out to this area, which is growing in Stedman, the cost to install sewer is extremely cost prohibitive, upwards of $1 million. So that's really not something that's feasible in development in this area. Again, with safety, don't really believe that safety is an issue in that one of the strengths actually listed in the land use plan is the safety in this area, the fire usage in this area. Again, by curtailing the number of entrances into the subdivision, we believe that, again, the traffic issue is addressed. Interestingly, if you get at the Stedman area land use plan, page 10, it lists the threats and the weaknesses. One of the threats that Stedman has identified is that there would be no growth or resistance to growth. And if I could, just real quickly, my understanding is that there's a large number of neighbors in support. If you're here in support of this development, if you would please stand up. This has a lot of community support. Thank you. In the last 38 seconds, I'd like to talk a whole lot longer, but let me just conclude in this manner. I actually happen to live in the country. I live on a farm, and I actually even farm it, believe it or not. And I would rather stay in an area that was all agriculture myself, and I would rather live in an area that only had fields, but sadly, that's not the reality. The reality is that we are growing, but what we need is smart, managed growth. And I do believe that this site plan, this project is smart growth. They've taken into account the neighborhood, the rural area, and this is planned in that manner. We're going to grow. We just need to grow smartly. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Our first speaker in opposition is Richard Freeman. Mr. Richard Freeman.
Welcome, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, sir. I'm Richard Freeman, and I live on John Nunnery Road. And I'm going to take a little bit of difference with my young man that was up here said there's no traffic on that road. I live there. There's a lot of traffic. Speed limit's 55 miles per hour as far as the infrastructure is concerned. Roads and schools are very much a great concern for us. The population growth, yes, this is not in the city limits of Stedman, and he was talking about, the mayor was talking about the growth of Stedman. We had an opportunity to grow in Stedman by getting a food line there, but they would not okay the sale of alcohol there. So, I don't know how this is going to help the growth of Stedman, this subdivision. And the next thing we're very much concerned is the water and sewer situation. There's no water or no sewer. We're going on small lots, and in the land use program, I think A1 is acceptable. Much has been said about the Stedman Land Use Plan. I was on that group that met and did try to come up with the plans for the Stedman use. And one thing that we said and we strictly wanted was to retain the rural situation. My uncle was the mayor of Stedman for many, many years, 38, Ernest Freeman. And he worked hard to provide and to make sure that we kept that rural identity, that community, that sense of belonging. And there's good growth, like you said, and there's bad growth. And we want good growth. 1 acre lots, agricultural 2 acre lots, we could live with that. But when we go to R30, in the land use program, we were told that the term that they used was, I think it was, help me out, Jordan, what was it again? Suburban growth. And no one ever explained to us what suburban growth was. And we told them at that point in time that we wanted to maintain a rural area. I brought this up at the meeting that we had before, and I offended my young man here because I said we got hoodwinked. And he came up to me after and said, no, you won't hoodwink. I said, well, everything won't explain, thoroughly to us that we understood that we were going to have R30. And Wheatland is right on Mary McCall, right down from me, is another development called Tenderwood. And they're all on 1 acre lots. I'm sure they're on 1 acre lots, if not bigger, okay? Like I said, we want to see growth, but we want wise, smart growth. And without water and sewer, and we have a problem right now with septic tanks. We have a problem right now with Gen X and water.
Thank you so much for coming, sir. Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker in opposition is Ms. Bolivia White Autry.
Welcome, Ms. Autry.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm confident with all the information that you've been given this evening, after listening to the other cases, that you will make the right decision based on the information that you're given. We are living in the 21st century, and we do have to have growth, and we do have to have development. But there are a lot of things to take into consideration with that, and we do have sentimental ties to our land. We do, have to set that aside as well. And with that being said, I do represent family land that is beside this development, as well as the family that is developing this land. With that said, our main concerns, putting that family ties aside, is the safety with this new growth coming in of this development of these houses. It is the safety. It's the safety of no city water, because there has been Gen X in our water, has been tested, and there is Gen X in even the development next to this development that is being proposed now. Gen X has been determined and found in the Wheatland area. It has been found in some of our residential private properties next to us. So we are concerned with that. I know that is being considered even with this new development but, or new proposal, but it is something to be concerned about. The growth that Mr. Marty Jones has talked about. Yes, we want growth, but I agree with Mr. Freeman. I don't see how this growth is going to help the city. We're concerned about our community. We do not live in the city of Stedman. And all the individuals that stood up for the proponents that are for this, how many of them live in the city of Stedman, not in the county, in our communities, near Bainbridge Road, John Nunnery Road, Mary McCall Road, that actually live out in our communities, that it really affects and impacts them and their safety. The growth of the schools. You know, there's other developments, as was stated. I do not remember who mentioned that are soon coming. I think one of the individuals maybe that was in the Stedman area mentioned new developments coming in the Stedman area. That is additional growth, but we're concerned about our community. We have, thank you, Commissioners.
Madam Clerk?
Our third speaker in opposition is John Wayne Mosley.
Welcome, Mr. Mosley.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Wayne Mosley. I reside at 540 Bainbridge Road. It's approximately half a mile from this project here. I'm pretty familiar with Stedman. I served a term as a commissioner for the town of Stedman. Some of my concerns with this project here is law enforcement. You all know law enforcement is tough right now. My whole term as a commissioner for the town of Stedman, we had issues with having officers respond, not just in the Stedman area, but as a whole, the whole east side of the river. I'm sure y'all are aware of that situation. So protecting these people is going to be a concern for this project. Code enforcement. I served on the town of Stedman, and that was one of my biggest things. Code enforcement in this county as a whole, just not Stedman. You ride around and look at Cumberland County. I know you're short-staffed, but the maintenance of some of these households and mowing and pests and cars in driveways and boats in driveways. And you can ride around Stedman. I've fought hard tooth and nail to work with your Cumberland County employees to resolve this. Didn't see a whole lot of progress. We did make some moves, but I know things don't happen overnight. Mr. Adams, I appreciate what you're saying. You know, since this happened, you know, we were looking at one thing. Now the plan has changed. I think there's a lot of opposition, and they know this. Hence, they're trying to create buffers and do those things, and I appreciate that. But as a commissioner, as a citizen of the county of Stedman or the town, Cumberland County area of Stedman, I've talked with a lot of people, and you know, there's a lot of opposition. I know a lot of folks in this room. I see some of them are from Beaver Dam, some of them are from Cedar Creek, some of them not in the town of Stedman, but not necessarily right here at this area. And I'd like to remind y'all that the planning board voted against this 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our last speaker in opposition is Ms. Laura Gilmore Smith.
Welcome, Ms. Smith.
Good evening. I would just like to take a moment to thank you for your service to our community and to our county. I would like to reiterate some of the things that the other gentlemen have and ladies have said. Our infrastructure right now is not set up to take 42 new homes. You take an average home, it's going to have 2 children. You put that many more at busting seams for our school district. The classrooms are overcrowded as it is. Our fire department, it would be strained to take on this many new residents at this time. I go down Merrimacaw to go to work and come home from John Nunnery, and for them to say there's very little traffic is a great mistake to say that. Like Ms. Autry said, there is Gen X been found in our water system. I live at 8531 Clinton Road, but my family land is over 100 acres that backs up within about a quarter of a mile of this new subdivision. And that little tiny cutout you see there at the R30 is my family cemetery. I don't want another subdivision jumping in right there that, you know, teenage children are not nice people to cemeteries at times. And that, for me, is a concern. At this point, it's not been an issue, but you add that many more homes, and that's a concern of mine. But without water and sewer, I don't understand how this can go through. And like Mr. Mosley stated, the Planning Commission did vote this down in their previous meeting. Thank you for your time.
And thank you. Madam Clerk?
There are no further speakers.
No questions.
Close the public hearing. Yes, Commissioner Keefe.
Thank you. Gosh, I can't tell you how many questions I have. First one is, how did the property south of this get to be R30?
That's a good question. We did some history on that, and I'm prepared to speak on it.
Because they're about the same size, and with all of this happening, if they wanted to put it on that property, it's vacant now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if they wanted to put it on that property, they could probably put as many houses on there now.
Yeah, so we did some analysis. So we picked the one to the south, and we picked this Wheatland subdivision because that was brought up. So with your permission, I'll just walk through sort of the history of those, and you guys can see all that. So I'll start with the Wheatland subdivision. As you can see by the case number 9324, that was approved back in '93. So when we looked at that, it was approved. You can see it's 56 acres. The average lot size is 29,000 square feet. And then you can see the minimum lot size is roughly about a half acre in there. The gross density, when you look at it, is about 1.3 dwelling units per acre. So there are about 75 lots, and they're all on well and septic as well there, too. So as far as the motive of why it's approved, I can just say it was approved back in '93. That's what our records show for that particular subdivision.
So I am going to interrupt you, but just what you're telling me now is it is built to R30 recommendations if it's 29,000 square feet.
Well, the R30 says 30,000 square foot minimum lot sizes. So if they're 29,000, then there's some in there that don't meet it. So I think this is an older subdivision that may have just been there.
All right, please, go on.
And then for the one that's to the south, that was, as you can see, P9780, that was approved back in 1997 for about 56 acres, and it was never built upon. But it is entitled, because I think some of the discussion at the planning board is like, I think some people have brought up and said, well, that guy's never going to build on it. But it is entitled to be built upon. If somebody wanted to buy it, they could build on it at an R30 standard.
And he would not have to go with any of these conditions, is that correct?
Yes, sir. It would be subject to the base ordinance requirements.
But not all the conditions that we talked about with the...
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
So for this, for this particular case, again, it was heard back in '97. It was a request for R20. The planning board did recommend R20, or no, they recommended denial and recommended R30 instead, and then the commissioners approved R30 at that particular time, and that has a potential lot yield of 65 lots on that piece of land. So.
Okay. So it's been okay, all right. That was my main question for you. Mr. Neville, I don't know if you or the developer, there's been a lot of concern about Gen X and all that. Tell me, what are you going to do on the deed? What are you going to do about any of that?
Thinking about it.
Okay.
Hey, good evening, guys. My name is Rhett Bunce. I live at 340 Wade Stedman Road. And the way that we are going to handle the Gen X issue is that we are going to put in the restrictive covenants that there are reverse osmosis filters put on every well that is installed in this property. Our intentions are not to install houses that are going to be a threat to the community or a hindrance to the community, but a growth to the community. So those reverse osmosis filters, which are proven from the North Carolina government to correct the Gen X, would be our correction for that. And in addition to that, I would like to say, to help ease some of the opposition's mind, that we are going to have some restrictive covenants that are installed that say what type of house you can have, the minimum square footage of the house that can be built. If you want to put up a privacy fence, you can put up a privacy fence, but it needs to be this material and of this makeup. And also for the exterior buildings, if you'd like a secondary structure, you can have that, but it's got to be of the same material of the house. That'll keep from cluttering it up. We see so many oftentimes that developments are just put in quickly with no thought. But again, I'm from Stedman, and you know, in addition to my father and Steve here, the applicants are also from Stedman. We want to ensure, we own farmland across the street here. If you look on the left side of the blue and white circles, we own that land, and we're going to farm it, and we're going to ensure that that development put is of utmost integrity and that it's built with a high class. And so we want to make sure of that. And then again, we just wanted to add there that we did take into
Sir, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
What was that for?
It was too long.
No, it's two questions.
You didn't understand?
All right, thank you.
I have a quick question, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Hypothetically, you just look back in 1993 and 1997, previous boards, you weren't here, I wasn't here.
Correct.
If this gets approved as R30, then wouldn't it be that the farm he just pointed out is consistent with it because there's two R30s right across the street? If they ask for that 5 years from now?
Again, I think that would be up to the board. I mean, because a lot of that depends on what plans say. You know, I mean, our current plans do say that it's compliant with the plans. I mean, but, you know, just because it's compliant with the plan, the board has the discretion to go against the plan if you feel like it's necessary. So it really would be, again, it's just a policy guidance document. If it's something that you didn't support or think did not go against the plan, that would be your discretion.
What I'm asking is, like, in your experience of doing this, just like we just heard from a couple of speakers that there's R30 right beside us, there's R30 right beside us, there's R30 right beside us. Well, wouldn't then, if they took the family farm that they intend to farm this year, in 5 years, come in and want to have the successful R30 subdivision that'll be there now, and say, now this was approved when there's only one R30 out there, and now there's two?
Yes. I think that could be said. That's something that we hear quite a bit, Commissioner Booth.
Okay, is that the only track that this movement or applicant has?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Adams.
And it may be the attorney or Rawls, I don't know. But we don't approve site plans. If it's not commercial, we don't approve site plans. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So all of this really doesn't have, we can't do anything with any of that because it's not in our purview. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that I was moving in the right
Along with
direction.
that, Mr. Chair, let me clarify something for the record, because the minutes of this meeting are crucial. I've heard, I mean, all that's in this package is an application for a conditional use R30, 0 lot line up to 52 lot subdivision. So that's what, and I heard what was said, but I don't know what you have been presented because it's not in this package. The only thing that's in this package is it could be up to 52 lots. And I think, from my mind, I was at that planning board meeting, the planning board's concern was, R30 is what this district allows, but with it being a 0 lot line, most of these lots were, some of them substantially less than 30,000 square feet, and that was what the issue was. I heard what Mr. Rawls said, and you presented a map, but is that map is not in our package, is that correct?
Not that particular, because the thing is the board would have to accept the map in order for it to be.
Right, that's what, and I went there to start this whole discussion.
Right.
Is that we do not approve site plans. We do not approve this. This is not what we do. That's back at the planning stage, back there. And so all we have in front of us is a zero lot line, unless we do something a little bit different.
Conditions. With conditions.
Well, I don't know.
The application is for a zero
Right.
lot line up to
That-
52
But
lots.
we could, I'm sorry.
But we don't approve site plans. I mean, the only commercial, if you do a commercial, do you do site plan? Do we do site plans?
Well, by the ordinance, if you do conditional zoning, a site plan has to accompany that. So, I mean, so when you approve every conditional zoning request, in theory, there is a site plan that's included in your packet as a part of your approval or denial.
And this application is presented as a conditional zoning, but it's for a zero lot line up to 52 lots.
Right.
Right, that's what came across in terms of the packet that we got. I mean, I understand what's here tonight, but that's not what came, that was what was on my dais when I got here.
Gotcha.
But that was not what was in the packet that
Okay.
was forwarded to us, that's on this agenda, that puts everybody on notice as to what we're voting on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's, and which is why I talked about this at the very beginning of this hearing when you said that. And again, this is outside the town of Stedman. I think PWC, they got PWC water and sewer inside the city of Stedman, is that correct? I don't know how far this is down there, but we are sitting here as a board talking about countywide water and sewer. We went all around this community. That's what everybody talked about was countywide water and sewer. And it just kind of hit me that when he said, well, we don't want to do it because it's going to cost $1 million, then it falls on us to do it for $1 million. But you get the development and sell all these houses with all of the income, and then we have to come in and retrofit and do all this. I just don't think that's what this board ought to do. And they do have, and I've been consistent, you all know, I've been consistent that when there's Gen X on the ground, that I have a problem approving in terms of having septic, having wells in terms of that. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Keefe.
In contrary to what Commissioner Adams is saying, we have the ability to approve this tonight with conditions, correct?
Yes, but we need a record of what those are.
Well, it can be in our motion, because I've been pretty consistent, as Commissioner Adams is with buffers and setbacks and zero lot lines not being considered. Unfortunately, I think that's the only way he can apply, is with a zero lot line, correct?
He can apply with a straight R30, because with his request right now, that's pretty much what he's taken it to, is just a R30 request.
But his initial was a zero lot line that went into R30.
It was an R30 zero lot line conditional subdivision.
Right, but what the proposal is, and we can put those conditions in with a motion, that the setbacks are in place, that we can restrict one lot per every 30,000 square feet, instead of, and for the public out there, it's, if you say R30 and some of it's not built upon, you can squeeze them all into one area, but we're not allowing that, if that were to happen.
Correct.
And I did have a question on the stormwater runoff and the stormwater drains that would happen on there. Consistently, I've had that in rural. It seems to me that this development is actually going to set a standard, a higher standard than the other 4 developments that are out there right now, and potentially one just to the south of there that we can't do anything about. I would be much more concerned about that property to the south of us than I would be with all these conditions to keep it as best you can in a rural area. So, to clarify, our motion can be to approve with conditions that we set forward if we went line by line down this paperwork that we got. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney?
From what you said, Mr. Keefe, I really think that you could do it as a conditional zoning, a straight R30 with the 30-foot buffer around the perimeter, because with a straight R30, every lot's got to be 30,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Council.
Did the planning board ever see any of this?
Not this stuff, no, ma'am. We present it to the applicant, and some of them want to push forward, some of them, so we offer it up. Do you want to go back to the planning board, do you want to move it forward? And sometimes we actually make the call that if it's such a grossly deviating plan, we'll just say, look, that needs to go back to the planning board. But again, I think for this particular one, since they offered up pretty much the same site plan, they just tweaked tweak their lots up, and then they put these conditions on this piece of paper, we felt that it could come to the board. But if the board wants to push it back to the planning board, that's certainly within your purview.
What I'm asking.
What is it?
Commissioner
Did it go
Booth.
back to the planning board?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Instead of us looking at totally new stuff.
Okay. Commissioner Booth.
Thank you, sir. Let me just ask then, conceptually, is this recording anything binding, or the fact that this is laying up here, anything binding if we approve the proposed plan?
As long as you make it clear in the minutes, because, I mean, motion, but trying to incorporate the stuff that's been presented in the discussion and with packages is going to be tough unless you have it very well specified. And if the board's consideration is the R30, maintain the R30 site, R30, 30,000 square foot lots, a straight R30 will do that. To get the additional 30-foot perimeter buffer that they've offered, that would require a conditional zoning. I don't know what other conditions are in the sheet that has been presented to you that's not in the package, but you could certainly add any or all of those. But those two things seem to address the lot size and add that.
That's what I'm saying, I have too many questions that, like, does a 0.69 plus now taking in a 30-foot buffer and getting rid of the 0 lot lines on the left and right, does that comply with one per? Is that still just an R30 one house?
Just a straight R30. 30,000 is about 6,900s, but just a straight R30,000. A straight R30,000 requires every lot be at least 30,000 square feet.
Well, that's what I'm looking at. It says .69, but is that before or after the taking out of the framing of 30 feet down the entire borderline? So, you know.
It doesn't matter, he has to do it.
If I may, Commissioners, it sounds like it's a lot of questions. If the board wants to defer it back to the planning board, I think it probably is the safest motion if you guys are just having way too many questions on. We can certainly do that as well.
Yes, Commissioner Booth.
Well, I think we tried to do what we could to steer this, and I didn't feel any push on that, but like, if it's right on the border of .69, and that's what the lot is, and then you take away 30 feet down the entire length of the lot, that would be a whole lot less. So to get it on the floor for discussion, in the matter of case P2128, I move to deny the rezoning request from A1 Agricultural District to R30 Residential District, conditional zoning district as presented, that would allow up to 52 lots, 0 lot line division, and find the request is not consistent with the Stedman area land use plan, and that the request and the conditional use subdivision plan submitted for this site are not compatible with the rural character of the area. This rezoning approval is not reasonable, not in the public interest, because the district requested and the subdivision plan are not in harmony with surrounding zoning and land use.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman, I didn't understand Commissioner Booth's question when he said about the 30-foot reduction.
Well, he moved to deny it, so it don't really matter.
I know, but I want to make sure that I'm answering your question. The 30-foot perimeter, the property owners would still own that portion and be part of that lot. It's just a buffer which would be restricted as far as, that's what a buffer is. They would have to keep vegetation or whatever is specified in that 30-foot, but it would still be part of the lot.
Right.
Okay.
And I just didn't understand what you were asking.
You did.
Okay. There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Whoa.
Oh,
Discussion.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Keefe. I didn't see your light.
Thank you. It seems to me that this developer has done what every one of us has asked at one time, to go meet with the community, to make adjustments, to go in harmony with the community. These are people that live in that community. They have said that the soil in that area is no good for farming, and they are farmers. The concern for the community, again, is the R30 south of, this developer is setting a standard for a development out there at R30 that is better than any of the previous developments that have been approved, probably by this board at some time. You know, I understand the thoughts, and going to traditional R30 with the buffer takes care of many of these issues. The only issue it doesn't do is, I don't want this owner of this land to be able to use that land for anything else, because that's what we're doing. It can't grow. The only thing you can do is develop on it, and we have proven that R30 allows for wells, septic tanks. It is in our ordinances. So, you know, I'm going to support this at traditional R30 if we can go to that, if this fails. Thank you.
And Mr. Keith, to support it like you're saying, it'd have to be a traditional R30 conditional zoning with that.
Right, traditional R30, not as the applicant has, traditional R30 with the zoning. We are taking away someone's ability to use their land at all. Thank you.
Well, with this vote coming up, I will say this. We as a board are dealing with the issue of Gen X right now in other communities. It has been stated that in this particular community, that there's Gen X there. And so I just don't understand for the life of me why we would approve residential if you have an issue with Gen X there, and you already know that we as a board are dealing with it now in other areas of this county. I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody. And so with saying that, we're going to take this vote, and I'll be voting in opposition. All in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Lancaster, Chairman Evans, Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Booth, and Commissioner Stewart. Voting in opposition, Commissioner Keith. Vote passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. The next zoning case, P21-33, has been deferred to September 20th. The final contested case.
1 second. Let's give the audience a chance to leave.
Yes, it would at 6:1.
Okay, Madam Manager.
The next case is case P21-34.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Stated that this case is located, you can see pretty much out there in the Eastover area in the, I'd just say in the eastern part of the county, east central part of the county. The applicant is George Tatum. The agent is Ben Stout. The request is to go from A1 agricultural to R30 residential for about 19.6 acres. You can see it sits right at the Eastover town limit. This is the parcel that is in question here in the red with the crosshatch off Rock Hill Road. But you can see here there is sort of a hodgepodge of R40, RR, A1. You have it sort of all over the place here, and it'll probably show it better on the zoning map here when we colorize it. So, as I said, this sits at the town limit of Eastover, but you can see the majority of the land uses are basically either vacant, open land, single-family residential. We do have some mobile home subdivisions up here in the upper right-hand part of the area that we sent for notifications. Again, here's the zoning. You can see it's pretty much A1, RR. It is served by Eastover Water. There is no sewer in the area, as you can see. Pretty much good soils. The plan calls for, it was subject to the Eastover Land Use Plan, which calls for rural density residential, which calls for 1 to 2.2 like units per acre. We feel that the request is compliant because it is asking for 30,000 square foot lots. This is the subject property looking on Rock Hill Road, looking at the property, currently wooded. You can see this is looking south on Rock Hill Road with the property immediately on the left-hand side. This is looking across the street, looking west. And this is looking north on Rock Hill Road. You can see our zoning sign to comply with our public notification requirements, you can see. So staff had recommended approval of the request. We took this to the planning board, and they also supported the request, even though by a split vote. It was 5-4.
Okay. Open the public hearing. Are there any speakers, Madam Clerk?
We have one speaker in favor, one speaker in opposition. Our speaker in favor is Mr. Ben Stout.
Mr. Stout, welcome.
Put you back on the zoning map. How about that?
All right. Thank you so much for y'all's time. I know it's been kind of a later evening, but I appreciate you letting me present my case. I had met with the mayor of Eastover as well as the town manager of Eastover, and also met with the planning board representative from Eastover, and presented this to him to try to come up with a way to make this project work. Part of what my long-term plan is to kind of voluntarily annex myself into the town of Eastover, and that's why I met with them to make sure that this is something that they'd support. It does have public water on it, which I know from obviously the previous case, that sounds like that's something that we need to be attention to. So we have that, and even I took it another step forward, and we actually have had all the soils tested already. So I went ahead and spent that money up front to try to answer maybe some questions that y'all may or may not have. But in doing so, we've designed a project that complies with this rezoning, that has public water, that has all the hydraulic soils that have been tested. So our neighborhood's designed to adequately take any sewer that would come from these single-family residential homes and properly do what septic tanks do. So obviously those permits come from actually Cumberland County. So if this is approved, we'd obviously then go and get that application submitted. And obviously those septic systems are what this area has. I'd say the last thing is in trying to work with everybody to make this thing happen and meeting with the folks from Eastover. They offered their support. Again, the planning staff offered their support, and the planning board offered their support. So we're excited about it. It's going to be a nicer project. I think that our total lots are around 23, and our average house will probably be in the 3 to 350 range. So that obviously kind of help Eastover with maybe $7 to $8 million of single-family residential. So tried to check all the boxes on this one, and greatly appreciate everybody's support. Somebody who's a lot smarter than me, who actually kind of has done all the plans, Mr. Scott Brown's here with me. So if y'all have technical questions as it relates to anything technical, certainly he'd be willing to answer those questions for you, and greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Madam Clerk.
Our final speaker, who is in opposition, is Mr. Mark Harris.
I'd like to start by thanking the board for the opportunity to be heard. I'm here because I live directly across from where they're going to be building right here. This is that's about just under 9 acres right there. Those 20 acres or 19.6 acres is directly across the street from me, and that's a ridge there. If you see 95 coming there, that all of this land here is high on a ridge. It's higher. You have Rock Hill Road is a little bit less. So that's me at 1473. My wife Brigida and my 4 kids, we live there. I wish my neighbor here, he's a farmer. He has a large horse farm there, but he's at a horse show, so that's where he is. But our concern is a few things. I mean, if you look at 95, yeah, there's some RR and different things here, but all along this part of Rock Hill is A1, it's agriculture, and it's our R40. Mr. Broadwell just built some houses up this side, and it's R40. My concern is where I am is you got this ridge, and you're going to put 24 septic tanks up there. Where do they go? We talked about runoff and the storm drainage. I can tell you where it goes. Another reason I'm here, this area right here, there's a culvert that comes right over here. You can kind of see that discoloration there. That culvert comes onto my land, and that's where that runoff's going. It's on my land. So that goes there, that ditch then follows along this line and ends up in the Cape Fear River, but it's septic tanks. I couldn't, so talked about the planning board or the planning office talked about the good soil. I got 8.5 acres. I had everything tested. I got a postage stamped actually. You get the one house is all you're going to get on mine 9. So, and I'm sure being up on that side where it's high, that there is probably some better soil up there for drainage, but I'm concerned with all the springs. I have 4 active springs on my property alone, 4 active springs. There's springs up here, they feed into that area. In the middle of a drought, there's water running onto my land, nonstop. I'm concerned about the septics feeding into those springs, feeding into my land. So that's what I'm concerned about. My other neighbors are concerned about that as well, as the ditches that came, I don't know if you guys know Buck Plyler, he ditched all this, but it comes back all through there. And other people, there's about 15 houses that go Broad Muskeg all the way coming back onto Buckland Drive. And I'm the small lot around there, to be honest. I mean, I'm looking for consistency in this agriculture and this R40. Now, if you want to jump over the side of 95, yeah, you can find something different. But if we're consistent in there, that's what I would like to see. And so my concern is the runoff. My concern is the septic tank sitting uphill from me. My dad told me that stuff that runs downhill, and I'm downhill. So that's my concern.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
No further speakers.
Close the public hearing. Is there any questions or comments?
Can I ask you, where's the exit off of 95?
I can answer that.
Yeah, I want you to go ahead and do it.
Yeah,
I know there's an interchange to the
here-
south.
24, you
Yeah.
got 24. There is no exit where it crosses
It's
over.
not working.
Yeah.
Your pen not working, so you.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so you got Murphy Road's up here,
Right,
that
Murphy Road's
exit.
up there.
And then you have 24 down here,
Right.
an exit on 24, and you get back up to Rock Hill, you take Downing up to Rock Hill.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then no more comments or questions?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Booth. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the property owner to the south and across the street from this property, is that the James McNeil Williams and Mac Williams?
Are you talking about over here? You said,
Directly, the 2 lots that go across Rock Hill Road, go to the
Over here.
subject property, okay? No, yeah, that one. All right, now go below it, and then across, those 2.
these two?
Yeah.
That I don't know. Maybe somebody with a little bit more local knowledge who could probably be able to
Mac
say.
Williams, actually, I think it's his wife's family land. They're both deceased now, and that's my other concern, is that land will soon be up for sale, and there'll be 25 more houses going right there. And that also is on that high side of this land, where it also will drain back into that area.
Okay.
And is Joyce Fisher still alive?
Yes, sir. That's the.
She's above and across.
Yes, sir. That's the horse farm I was telling you about. That's his mother. He actually lives right here, but he farms that land. This is all their farmland. They lease that as well.
Is that it, sir?
And the Masters live behind you?
Yes, sir. They have 20 acres right here. That's the little Masters.
What do they use it for, just residence?
They do have a pond. That was one of their concerns. They're out of the state as well, is the water coming in, and that's a pond there. It looks like a goblet or something. That's the pond, and that's their 20 acres. And no, they don't farm it per se, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, is there a motion? Everybody just out. Is there a motion on this?
While he's looking that up, can I get another question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'll fill in for you.
All right, go ahead.
Just not trying to read a crystal ball, but I think that other lot way up there where it says A1 Town of Eastover, to the left of that is also Mac Williams land.
Here?
Yes. And so those 3 lots are going to be open, and right now, they're beside a bunch of, that's in the middle of a bunch of farms and agriculture.
Yes, sir.
So this goes to be residential, the two lots below it and the one up to the left.
Yes, sir, I'm concerned about the precedent.
Okay. Are we ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, in case P21-34, I move to deny the rezoning request from A1 Agriculture District to R30 Residential and find the request not consistent with the Eastover Land Use Plan. Denial of this request is reasonable in the public interest.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in
Does not meet
favor?
the character of the surrounding
Oh, I'm
land
sorry.
use activities and zoning. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, there was, first, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Deny?
Voting in favor.
This is to deny his motion.
Right, motion to deny.
Voting in favor to deny, Commissioner Adams and Commissioner Booth and Commissioner Stewart. Voting in opposition to denying is Commissioner Lancaster, Commissioner Council, Commissioner Keefe, and Chairman Evans.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Wait a minute, where does that leave us?
Nothing has
That just leaves us back to-
Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened.
Now you got to do a motion in
The
favor
motion
for one of those.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Before I make a motion, I have a question. Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The developer started at the beginning saying it is his goal to be annexed into the town of Eastover. And I probably should know this, but I don't. Eastover Sanitary District, how close is there any sewer close there?
I have to pull the case back up, if you can bear with me just a second. We have a map. I know there's water. I think I showed you there's water out there.
Right.
I'm not sure where the
Right,
sewer is.
and I appreciate Mr. Harris. I mean, Mr. Harris is out there, he's building himself a good life for his family, and it's starting to crumble all around him here. But if he's going to be annexed into and sewer is available, he wouldn't have to worry about septic tank runoff.
Right.
Oh, okay, well, hey. Mr. Harris, can you come up?
I was just going to say.
Can you come up? We're on TV.
I'm just remembering back, is I think there was a portion, I don't know if he can voluntarily be annexed into Eastover or not. It's not Eastover as of right now. He's in the county.
Right,
Not
correct.
Eastover. And and you guys would remember better than me, when this land, I remember I was in a little bubble there that said we could not be annexed by Eastover or Fayetteville for a period of time, and how long that was, I was thinking it was 15 years, and I've been there 10 or 12, that was maybe 10, that there's still years left on that where we can't be annexed. I don't know when, if they ever bring sewer, my neighbors don't have sewers, the ones that are in Eastover there, that may be their choice. I don't know if it's available to them, you may be able to
So
tell
you got
me.
the water lines up there, but there's no readily identifiable sewer, at least on this
Okay.
map. Not saying that it's not in close proximity, but it's just not.
So even if you go into Eastover in the town, it's not.
Well, the town is literally
Right, way down
right
there.
here. I
Yeah.
mean, so all of
Township
this,
starts right here, Roll Muskegs Road,
Yeah.
Roll
So here in
Muskegs,
the
there's a little
city.
sign that says Eastover Township right there.
In fairness, I think Mr. Stout had something to say on that too, if I may, Mr. Chair, since I asked Mr. Harris. Yep.
So while I'm certainly not a legal expert, and there are a lot of smart people here who are, my understanding is that you couldn't be involuntarily annexed into Eastover or the city of Fayetteville. So in this situation, in meeting with the mayor and meeting with the town manager, you can voluntarily annex yourself into it, and that was what I was planning on doing, to actually be in Eastover proper for the folks who would optimistically buy these homes, would be able to have the benefits of that. So yes, you can't be, I think, the way I understood it was voluntarily annexed, but we can voluntarily annex ourselves into the town of Eastover.
Why do you want to get annexed into this?
Well, so, and I think meeting with Mr. Rawls and his staff and it is, understanding that, obviously, when you're in the county, it kind of has a different tone to it, right? I mean, in the county, typically a project like this, I mean, I've been before, I would typically ask for like an R40 type zoning, but being that it's on public water, and with the way the economics of things are these days, it made that become very infeasible. And so my mindset in meeting with them was, if by coming to the town of Eastover, A, they get the benefit of it, B, Eastover gets the tax benefit of it, and it becomes something that's not standalone in the county kind of maybe the words that I've heard a lot are setting a precedent. I mean, this to me would be if, part of the town of Eastover is kind of a compromise between maybe like the R20 and the R40, and then meeting with the town of Eastover, they thought that that was a good compromise that they could get behind. And so that's really the reason that we went this direction was, I guess, working with the staff and working with the town of Eastover to try to come up with something that's, I guess, palatable and taking in consideration of everything.
Okay, Commissioner Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two final thoughts.
Do you want me to sit down?
The thrill of being, I think, tied onto the Eastover water system, unless we were given a lot of wrong information at several meetings, that's not the most stable, it's not new. And it's my understanding they're either gonna have to repair it or block it. So, I mean, it's not like tapping a bunch of houses on it, maybe the bursting bubble. And secondly, I ran into Mac Williams, and I'm not sure if he's talking about this land, but he had just left a planning board meeting, this must have been 10 or 12 years or so ago, and he said he saved his land again. And I don't know if it was this land or not, but he got fired enough to go up to the planning board meeting and oppose some rezoning out there. And if it was this, I'm not gonna be the one that interrupted his cup of coffee that night.
Yes, Commissioner Adams.
And just if we rezone this, there is no, if he decides not to go into the town of Eastover, it's just done.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's the other, and not that I don't take him at his word, but, when you start looking at economics and what it costs and what it does and everything, sometimes plans change and everything's flexible. So.
I'm struggling with this. I really am. Well, first of all, I know both these guys, and but consider both of them friends, and I'm going to upset one of them tonight, I'm sure. But if the goal is to be in the town of Eastover, maybe the current owner should petition for annexation now, and with the town of Eastover.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to do that. I'm a lawyer, Paul. I wouldn't do that and take that cost and run the risk of then it not getting rezoned. I'm probably just for Mr. South.
If it gets petitioned into the town of Eastover, Eastover would rezone it.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Commissioner Adams, that's oftentimes in these projects, there's certain things that you can't predict the future, right? So like, for example, like DOT, turning access, that's what Scott and those guys do. But to me, it's a situation where, listen, I appreciate you. I try to always, hopefully folks run a fact check on me, they know that I kind of get away by doing the things I say I'm going to do to the best of my ability, right? But at the same point in time, if that's something that, I understand your concern, but if that's something that you'd want to say as a condition of this, but we didn't feel it's proper to do it now, not knowing if this deal would get done. If this doesn't happen, this deal won't happen, right? And so I didn't want, the landowner doesn't want to have something that then is in the town of Eastover and he's dead in the water. So, but 100%, if you want me to put my money where my mouth is, I'm absolutely happy to do that, because that, at the end of the day, is what I've told everybody in Eastover. It's what I told Mr. Crumpler, who's in charge of the planning board, and I wouldn't back up on my word, because that's just
I
what
don't think we can put it in anything, because it's not voluntary, because then it's like we made you do it, so.
Okay.
Then we run into some serious
All right, well, see, you're smarter than I am.
Okay, Commissioner Booth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You just got to say off, okay.
I have a motion.
Madam, not Madam Chair, Commissioner Council.
For case P2134, I move to approve the rezoning request from A1 Agricultural District to R30 Residential District, and find the request consistent with the Eastover Area Land Use Plan, which calls for rural density residential at this location. The request is reasonable and in the public interest because the R30 residential district allows dwelling types and a density that promote harmony and character with the surrounding land use activities and zoning.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Mr. Keith.
I'm really sorry. It seems to me that, Rawls, is there any, or Mr. Attorney, is there any condition that we can put on this to talk about stormwater runoff?
No, sir. It's not a conditional request.
Okay, back to the vote.
All right.
All in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Lancaster, Council Keith, and Chairman Evans. Voting in opposition, Commissioner Adams.
Yeah, they get confused.
Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Booth, and Commissioner Stewart. The motion passes.
Together, don't we?
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll move now to items of business. And before Mr. Walker comes to the podium, I do want to clarify the positioning of these items. At the agenda session last Tuesday, the board discussed items 5A and 5B at the same time and made one motion for both items. However, 5A was specifically sent to the agenda as an item of business, but 5B was sent to the consent agenda. And as I was reviewing and approving the agenda, I struggled with one being on consent and one being on items of business. So I wanted, in full disclosure, for you to know that I moved both items together as an item of business. And so, just in the spirit of full disclosure.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Yes, Commissioner Adams.
That was my motion, but your decision is much smarter than that motion, so bringing them both to items of business, because this is the one I said we should move to item of business, so I think it's a great call.
Okay, thank you. And so this evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I'll ask Mr. Walker to review, begin with item 5A, and discuss the action that was taken on that item first.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. This project, as you all know, has undergone multiple revisions in project scope. As we've worked to explore meeting room concepts for the Board of Commissioners, we started with an estimated cost to renovate this room, 118 and 119, to the tune of close to about $2.3 million as an estimation developed by the Wooten Company, and also taking a look at what we like to call the historic courtroom proper over in the historic courthouse at a cost of somewhere in the vicinity of $2.6 million. After that, we refined the scope once again to incorporate a bathroom on the second floor of the historic courthouse, ADA upfits, an executive meeting room, technology improvements and infrastructure. And the Wooten Company came back with a proposal that would cost roughly $5,000 to come and give us a total cost to incorporate the historic courtroom renovations and all of the previous mentioned items. Staff was then instructed to come back and refine the scope once again to incorporate what it would cost to renovate the historic courthouse from the basement to the third floor. And so incorporated within that is not only the second floor bathroom with renovations and ADA upfits, the addition of the executive meeting room, technology and infrastructure improvements, but also offices for county commissioners, county manager's office, clerk to the board, county attorney's office, public information office, and budgeting. And so the Wooten Company once again came back with an estimate with a proposal rather, to develop an overall cost to incorporate all of those items in addition to renovating the historic courthouse from the basement to the third floor at a cost of $32,875. Concurrently, we submitted a request for qualifications for local firms to develop or to come in and do a study for a general government services building. And this study would be a space utilization and site analysis study. incorporated within that study would be the Judge E. Maurice Braswell Cumberland County Courthouse, the Cumberland County Historic Courthouse, and 109 Bradford. And incorporated within that study, the AE firm would take a look at the facilities, the departments currently housed under the direction of the county manager, and see which of those staff sections could be relocated to a future government services building. And additionally, they would develop a conceptual design for a future facility that would house all of these staff sections, and then they would also develop a proposal on how we could reuse any of the other buildings to include the historic courthouse in the event that we decided to build general government services building. In this study, then, they would give us a location, usage, and improvements, once again, to those existing facilities. And so the final report would be presented to the Board of Commissioners, and the commissioners would then utilize that to make a determination whether to go forward with the project into the design and construction phases. So I know I said a lot. Yes, Commissioner Booth.
Thank you, sir.
He gonna work at that military and just like you.
I wanted to say check or hold a couple times.
You better wait for the chairman to recognize you.
Mr. Chair? Young man. Yes, sir. Mr. Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Come on down off that hill.
The report, the last cumulative report, has so much information we need. Any idea, I always hate to ask this, is when it would be done? Ballpark, not a date, just a ballpark.
Ballpark.
2 years, 2 days, 2 months?
The report for the general government services.
That last thing you said about Bradford Avenue, this, and...
So if the board approves the AE firm that our selection committee determined to be the priority choice, their estimate is to have the study back to us and to be able to present it to the Board of Commissioners in 6 months.
That's great. You can pull that off. I'll start saluting you even though you're not in the military.
Commissioner Keith.
First of all, I'm sorry I missed that meeting because I don't know what happened. We've been talking for 4 months about this place or that place.
Not missing anything.
Well,
I did that too.
I think you did it all right.
I missed one. Oh, I did,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a statement.
Yes, sir.
If this past year has taught us anything, it's that government must continue to operate regardless of a pandemic, a natural disaster, or any other challenge that we see. I personally think that we should move forward with the renovation of the historic courthouse to make it compatible to the public to participate in the process of government by making the facility to allow for safe social distancing and provide solutions that are in compliance with ADA funds. I'd like to make a motion with the following conditions. That the renovation of the historic courthouse be 100% from American Rescue Plan funds to allow us to have facilities that are, that allow for social distances. Even here tonight, I don't think there was a lot of social distancing in a packed room. And there would be people who thought we may not have been as responsible as we should have. But we also know that it has problems with the American Disabilities Act. So my motion is that the funding be allocated from monies received entirely from the American Rescue Plan, that a renovation not exceed $3 million, and that the renovation allow for the social distancing and pandemic protocols in accordance with the American Disability Act. I'd like to make the motion that we dedicate $3 million for renovation of the historic courthouse for county offices and county Commissioner Chambers. That's my motion.
I have a question of clarification. Is that up to 3 million? Like if they bring it in
Not
at
to-
1.9?
not to exceed, not to exceed.
Okay, I'll second it.
And I have a question.
Sure.
Not to you, sir. I'd like to know the ARP monies, could that be used for the old courthouse restoration of the courthouse?
As long as there is a component to make it compatible for use for the type of environment we've been in for pandemic type stuff, that has been said it would be okay.
Okay. There's a, yes, Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you tasked a committee of to do the ARP and to come back with proposals to this board, and I think Commissioner Keefe chairs that, and I think that committee is doing excellent work. I think this American Rescue Plan, I always talk about the R in that, which is the rescue. And I heard what the attorney said, but you know, one of the things that it talked about is not supplanting money of something that was already planned and on the table prior to COVID coming into effect. Right, and so we talked about this over a year ago. So I'm not so sure that it really falls within that ARP concept that we're talking about. So, I mean, I'm not the attorney and I'm not playing that, but I just know that the guideline from Treasury talks about planning and what happened before then, and we were talking about this before March 30th, so I think we have some serious issues in terms of using ARP funds.
I appreciate your comments on that.
I mean, I'm just trying to make sure, because whatever money we don't do right, we have to pay back to the federal government on, and so I'm just trying to get there,
And you're correct. I mean, if what the discussions I've heard about the regulations on the March 3rd date, if it was something that was in our capital improvement plan, if it's something that money has been allocated for, then you're right.
How much money was allocated in our capital improvement plan for the historic courthouse, aside from the $80,000 for the elevator?
I don't know.
I do, nothing.
Well, not sure. We spent money, we've already spent money along the way.
Maintenance of the facility and improvement to the now is the time for us to be able to do that. We have an opportunity to do this at this time. I specifically said, if it doesn't come through with the ARP money, then it doesn't happen. But right now, we should be looking forward to doing a renovation in that courtroom. We're doing it every month. We've been in this room right here for 50 years next year, and there hasn't been hardly a renovation in this room at all.
Okay, one more question before I call for, we had a motion, didn't we? I'm not understanding what you're saying, Mr. Attorney.
The discussions of the regulations that I've been involved in with are that if you are, and this question's come up, renovating any type of county facility, if the renovation is something to accommodate use during a pandemic, in other words, if it would be difficult to do that in this room, in terms of social distancing with a number of people, petitions, whatever. If you renovate a building to be able to operate your government during a pandemic, that would be acceptable. To Commissioner Adams' point, if it was something that there was some real plan for before March 3rd of this year, then it's off the table. And I don't know whether, I know we've talked about the stuff, but I don't know whether it's ever been part of the CIP or. And being listed on CIP is one of the things that would make it ineligible.
So is there, Madam Manager, so is there anything that would prevent this from being used as funded, the ARP money being used for this?
Well, at this point, no funds have been allocated in the CIP plan other than elevator modernization and that type of thing, and some upfit to some areas. At this point, before March 3rd, we have been spending money with a consultant for us to come up with numbers. As you may recall, just to upfit the room itself was about $2.2 million, but that did not include the ADA upfit, the second floor bathroom renovations, the addition of an executive meeting room space, or the technology infrastructure improvements. The technology itself is estimated about $1 million. You have to remember, there is no technology in that room. So we've just been in the discovery phase. And at this point, we were at the last agenda session in June, the committee or the board asked us to look into those improvements, but also moving management, the Board of Commissioners, the clerks, and the attorney's office, and doing a larger renovation. And that's what brought us back this evening, seeking direction, or last Tuesday at the agenda session.
Okay, I understand what brought us back, but what I'm asking is, the guidelines that were set, that we're just talking with the attorney about, is there something, and from what I understand, it's a certain time period that it has to be done, or it should be done, before we use ARP funding? Are we within that time frame?
Has it, I mean, the first easiest question, has it ever been listed as a CIP, or CIP?
Not the major renovation.
You said elevator modernization was?
Yes, yes.
We programmed $250,000 for elevator modernization.
And has, other than the $250,000 allocated for elevator modernization, has any other funding been allocated before March 3rd?
Not that I know.
Before
of.
March 3rd, no.
No.
Okay, so we're well, if we go that way, we're well within our right, where there's no possibility of refunding any monies back.
But, yes, sir.
We are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's been a motion, there's been a second. Oh, I'm sorry,
No,
Commissioner
no,
Council, Commissioner Council, I'm sorry.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
I don't know what I did over here, something. But we have been talking about this and renovations to the courthouse for a long time. I believe that this courthouse was built so that it could add floors going up.
Correct.
There's no, I'm not sure that we need to be separating commissioners from, and the manager's office and the attorney's office and the public information office over in that building. I think there are a lot of hidden costs over there. There's no parking, absolutely no parking. And I believe we need to stick to our original plan for additional courthouse space, additional courtrooms, and I don't think we need to be stopping to piecemeal something at this point. That's my feeling.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions? But we made the motion and seconded, have we? Where are we at with this?
Yeah, you gotta.
Commissioner Booth.
Would you be amenable to including getting cost estimates for going up to 6th floor, 7th floor in that study that they're already doing? Or is that going to be a part of it?
That's part of it.
That can be included, that can,
Okay.
so if the board approves the RFQ, then we can write that
That's in the next part.
into the scope of work.
Okay, so we're at what point in this?
He
The
got a
vote?
He made a motion, I
Yeah,
made
the
a
motion,
second.
and it was second? Okay, and repeat the motion, please, Madam Clerk.
Well, you have yours written down, Commissioner
Okay,
Keith.
my motion is that, that we proceed with renovation of the historic courthouse, provided that all of the funding can come from ARP funding not to exceed $3 million to make it ADA compatible and with COVID restrictions and social distancing for the public.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Lancaster, Commissioner Keefe, Chairman Evans, Commissioner Booth. Voting in opposition, Commissioners Council, Commissioner Adams, and Commissioner Stewart. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Manager.
I do want to say this. I think the next step is for Mr. Walker to work with Wooten to determine what can be accomplished within $3 million. And so that would be entering into another contract agreement with him because, again, we were at $2.2 million without ADA, without the technology infrastructure. So at this point, I think we need to go back to Wooten and determine what can be accomplished with $3 million. And
Okay.
Okay. Madam Manager.
yes, sir, I'm sorry. So I guess that leads us to item B.
Madam Manager, if I may, I'm still willing to go forward with the assessment.
And that was 5B, that's where I was.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
Yes,
But I
sir.
mean, I don't understand why we go forward with that if you're talking about moving to the old historic courthouse. It just, just the money, I mean, that doesn't,
Fine.
that just doesn't make sense. I mean, we just throwing good money, I mean, that, never mind.
Well, and you know what, and the thing about it, we've always been throwing good money away. We have.
Well,
I mean, not trying to be argumentative, but we've given to organizations where the money was used and or haven't been used. We just hold on to it. We just hold on to it just in case. That Civil War Museum. We're still holding on to that. And so if there's a need for money, let's remove that out of the kitty and use that.
You can make
But
the
I don't
motion.
think that want to happen.
You can make the motion.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Booth.
Oh, I was just going to move, since this was pretty much on the consent agenda, and it's already part of the study anyway, just to approve B as presented.
Second.
I mean, the rest of us were there and approved it. The only one who wasn't here just seconded the motion to approve it.
All in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Lancaster, Keefe, Chairman Evans, Commissioners Booth. Voting in opposition, Commissioners Council, Commissioner Adams, and Commissioner Stewart. The motion passes.
Madam Manager.
Item number 6 are the board's nominations.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The board's nominations, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Don't wait till you call me, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, he do the nomination.
Yes, at the Mid Carolina Rural Transportation, which needed a commissioner, nobody volunteered, because they didn't want to fill out the form. I've already filled it out, so, the nominee would be Glenn Adams. The Joint Appearance Commission, there is no, we don't have, it's a one vacancy. There is no recommendation from the Joint Appearance Board, so, we can move that to, next month's meeting. The Regional Land Use Advisory Commission Board of Directors, one vacancy. That recommendation would be Ross Howard, who is the Planning Inspection Director. There is a nomination for Federal Technical Community College Board of Trustees. I don't know if anybody has any nominations. Mr. Larry King, Mr. King, and the board over there recommended Esther Thompson for that. So those would be the nominations, Mr. Chairman, and that will take us into the appointments.
Yes, sir.
For
Would
the-
you,
For the
You
seniors.
nominated,
I think you still have
Excuse me?
one.
you nominated Ms. Thompson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right.
For the appointments, the Senior Advisory Board was one commission. I move that Shamona Ross, SHAMONA, be appointed to the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Voting in favor, unanimous.
The Board of Adjustment has 3 vacancies. I would move that Linda Amos be moved to a regular member, Robert Davis be moved to a regular member, and Kenneth Turner as an alternate member.
Second.
All in favor?
Voting in favor, that is unanimous.
The Transportation Advisory Board has 2 vacancies. I would move that Deborah Kinney be the at-large representative, and Randy Hume be the urban transit provider representative.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
And that is unanimous.
There was a second, well, I don't know, there's one up there at B and one down at D, so I'm not sure. Is that a second vacancy on the Joint Appearance Commission? I would move to appoint Kenneth Rogers.
All in favor?
Do we
Is there-
have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
That is unanimous. Thank you.
Madam Manager.
Yes, sir. That brings us to item number 8, closed session. The first closed session is for economic development matters pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A4, and also 8B is personnel matters pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A6.
Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Unanimous.
We're now in closed session.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please. I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
I want all of the people who are my age to enjoy their golden years.
I mean, it just makes good sense to try to protect yourself.
I've got great-grandchildren out there I haven't seen, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'm asking my seniors and my young people to encourage my seniors and my young people to participate in this process.
What you do to keep yourself healthy helps keep your neighbor, your friends, your relatives, helps keep them healthy too.
I'm excited, relieved, and grateful. And taking the shot is what's best for all.
I encourage all of us to say, I'm not through. There are things I still have left to do, and I'm going to fight this head on. I'm going to get vaccinated.
I feel very much that this allows me to be more in control of my life, less fearful. Doesn't mean I won't wear a mask, I will.
If we take it seriously, we can be past the horrors of 2020.
If you have a spot, take your shot.
You have a spot?
Take your shot.
You have a special spot, so please Take your shot.
You have a spot.
Take your shot.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over. Your insurance goes up. You lose your license. You total your car. You kill someone.
Hey, Jimbo, let's go take a ride in my new space truck. Are you crazy? You can't drive. You're space drunk. What? Come on.
Hold it right there.
Captain Cosmic.
Don't you boys realize drinking and driving is a bad idea? Not only can you hurt yourself, but you could seriously injure someone else. I think you need to find a ride home because it's booze it and lose it.
Jason, let's go see your room.
What do you think? We kept it a little spare, so you can decorate it how you like.
Dinner! Here we go.
Excellent.
Soccer is fun.
Yeah, I saw you guys out there.
What if we start to think about cancer differently, at the beginning? In this special issue of Pediatrics, we invite you to learn more about early life factors that contribute to a person's lifetime cancer risk, about opportunities for preventing cancer from the beginning, as early as the prenatal period, infancy, and throughout childhood. Let's talk about how we can consider cancer causes and prevention now, at the beginning of the lifespan, not only at the middle or the end. This issue will inform and engage pediatricians, policymakers, and families in discussions about cancer prevention.
This is an important message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Has your home recently experienced flooding after a hurricane or other natural disaster? If you have a weakened immune system, you may be at risk for becoming seriously ill from mold. People with weakened immune systems include those who have had a transplant, are getting chemotherapy for cancer, or are taking medications that weaken the immune system. Don't enter buildings with mold damage if you have a weakened immune system or breathing problem like asthma. If you have a weakened immune system and need to clean mold in an indoor area, wear a properly fitted NIOSH-approved N95 mask or one that provides even more protection. Also wear gloves and goggles. You may see or smell mold on furniture, carpeting, or other items that have been wet for more than 24 hours. Assume mold is present, even if it's not visible. Completely dry everything. Clean up the mold and repair any damage. Talk with your healthcare provider if you've recently been exposed to mold and have symptoms that aren't getting better with treatment. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/mold.
When the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, you'll ask yourself, how prepared or unprepared are you? Have you removed objects from over the bed and over your head? Anchored your possessions securely to the wall. It won't be a pain, and you're not doing it in vain. Are your emergency kits packed? What about your family, your friends? Did they know what to do, how to get in touch, and where to meet? Do you know how to drop, cover, and hold on, covering your head and neck? What if you're outside? Or in a car? After the shaking stops, look around. Figure out what to do. Stay away from damaged areas. Turn on a radio. Reach out for help. And if you're trapped, do not move about. Stay calm. Only shout as a last resort. Once everything and everyone is safe, get prepared. An aftershock could be on its way. So before the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, get prepared. Make a plan. Practice what you know, because an earthquake can happen anytime, anywhere. You never know.
A man was critically injured following a crash early Friday morning. Officers at the scene said the victim was driving a pickup truck when he lost control of the vehicle. The pickup veered left and went into a ditch. A front seat passenger was wearing a seatbelt and escaped the crash without injury. The driver was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected from the truck. He died at the scene. Law enforcement writes tickets to save lives.
You'll never catch me, space fools!
He's getting away! Not so fast.
What are we waiting on?
You forgot to buckle your space seatbelt. And if you don't buckle up, you could face a fine up to $179.
Right.
Remember, friends, whether you're the passenger or the driver, it's click it or ticket.
Operation Lifesaver reminds professional drivers, including cement, dump, and garbage truck drivers, to stay alert when crossing railroad tracks. Due to the weight of your vehicle, you should take extra precautions when approaching and crossing railroad tracks to avoid a devastating crash that could derail a train. However, with a proper rail safety education, you can stay safe and help others stay safe too. What actions should you take at a highway rail grade crossing? First of all, approach crossings with care. For those trucks required by law to stop at crossings because they're transporting hazardous materials, start by using four-way flashers and pull-out lanes if available. Turn off fans, radio, and other distractions. Watch and listen to your surroundings. Be sure to use mirrors to see around your truck. While stopped, look carefully in both directions for approaching trains before you cross. Make sure you can see around obstructions such as mirrors and windshield pillars. If your truck doesn't fit, don't commit. Be sure there is enough room on either side of the tracks for your entire vehicle. Trains overhang the tracks, so for safety, leave at least 15 feet between the rear of your vehicle and the nearest rail. Do not try to beat a train. Trains cannot stop quickly. Be patient and wait. Use the highest gear that allows you to cross the tracks without having to shift midway. If the red lights begin to flash after you start across the tracks, keep going and don't stop. As a professional driver, what signs and signals should you understand at crossings? An advance warning sign warns of a crossing ahead. A crossbuck sign instructs you to yield to a train. The painted stop line before the tracks indicates where to stop. A multi-track sign warns of more than one set of tracks at a crossing. When used, this sign is placed just below the crossbuck at a crossing, and it tells you the number of tracks to expect at that location. Flashing red light signals mean a train is approaching and you must stop. Gates and flashing red lights mean a train is approaching. Do not drive around them. A hump crossing sign means a low vehicle could get hung up on the tracks. A yellow diamond-shaped parallel track sign means there is a railroad crossing immediately after making a turn. Now, let's imagine your vehicle stalls or hangs up on the tracks. What then? Get out of your vehicle, even if you do not see a train. If a train is approaching, get out and run towards the train, but away from the tracks at a 45-degree angle to avoid debris from a collision. If there is no train approaching, get out. Locate the emergency notification system sign and call the phone number on the sign to report your problem. Stay safe and help others stay safe around tracks and trains when you use increased attention when crossing railroad tracks, recognize and obey signs and signals, and act appropriately in the event of a stalled, stuck, or hung up vehicle on the tracks. For more information, visit our website at www.oli.org. Note, local and state laws may be more restrictive than the reminders contained in this video.
The Vision Resource Center dedicated a new walking trail for the blind and visually impaired at the Center for the Blind on Cedar Creek Road. The event was held October 15th to coincide with National White Cane Awareness Day, a national observance that recognizes the independence and accomplishments of the blind. The trail is a quarter-mile long loop of gravel on the center's 7-acre property. Executive Director Terry Thomas said the trail will improve the quality of life for blind people by offering a safe place for fitness and recreation.
Our blind and vision impaired people, they have been wanting a trail where they can walk for over 3 years. And this will allow them to help with the other things that they have going on in terms of their flexibility. A lot of them have diabetes. That's how they lost most of their sight. So they want to get their health and wellness going each and every day. So this will afford them the opportunity to come out and walk in a very safe place where they don't have to worry about no sidewalks. They don't have to worry about cars or traffic. They could come out and enjoy the outside and get their health and wellness on. And a lot of them have been excited and been waiting for this day.
In May 2019, the Vision Resource Center moved into the Cedar Creek property after the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners approved a lease agreement. The Vision Resource Center serves blind adults and children through a variety of services including healthy living programs, independent living classes, support groups, social activities, as well as youth programs and a summer camp for children.
road laid out for me, leading down to
boxes everywhere. And this is gonna be Addie's room.
I am blind, but I need not see.
I think you're really gonna like it.
I know this road is there for me. There is a love waiting.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Waist down by the river. I am blind, but I need not see. I know this love is there for me.
Nice and slow. I got this.
Take me down to the river and wash me.
Okay. What do you think?
Hi, my name is Rafael Osuba. I'm the artistic director of the El Quijote Festival. I just want to share this with you. There's no way for you to know who has COVID-19 just by looking at them. Race, religion, your age, your gender, it doesn't matter. So, when you go out of the house, protect yourself. I know we all can't stay home, but, we can do one simple thing. We can wear a mask. And that small thing can protect our families, our friends, and those that we care about, and then our community as well. A mask helps those in the community that are most vulnerable, those that have health issues, those suffering from diabetes like myself. So it's such a simple thing that we can do to show our love for our community and be responsible adults. When you wear a mask, it protects you, and it also protects those that are still home. So when you get home, they're not exposed to the virus. When you go home, wash your hands. Make sure your mask covers your nose and your mouth, okay? Don't wear it down here. That's not the right way to wear it. Keep your distance. Try to keep at least 6 feet apart from those in the community, those around you, so that way you are not exposed and that they're not exposed. These are our best weapons to fight this virus, and everyone needs to do their part in the community if we're gonna get through this. It's very simple, folks. If you go out, wear a mask. We are really in this together. Stay strong, North Carolina, and get behind the mask. Put it on.
When the clouds form, the rain pours, and water is all around, you'll ask yourself, how prepared or unprepared are you? Did you raise your utilities, appliances and such? Install a sump pump, clean the drains, just in case it decides to rain. Do you know your risks? Have you checked the local plans? You should cover your property with a flood insurance policy. Is your emergency supply kit packed? Is your family prepared? Do they know what to do, where to go, and how to stay safe? Because when the water starts to rise, you must act quickly and be wise. Turn on your radio, listen for updates, and if authorities tell you to go, hurry up and do so. Get to safe ground, go as high as you can, do what you need to do, but don't put yourself in harm's way. Just inches of water can sweep you away. Once the water is gone, move carefully. Be on the lookout for dangers you can't see, animals, debris, and electricity. Do not go home until you hear the all clear. Now when you get home, be aware. Not everything is as safe as it may appear. So before the clouds form, the rain pours, and water is all around, get prepared. Make a plan and keep yourself dry. Get started today. Go to ready.gov/prepare.
When you're on the road, safety is always priority one. In the U.S. alone, tens of millions of vehicle and equipment recalls occur every year. We know because here at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, we call it NHTSA, we set and enforce vehicle safety standards. And when vehicles and equipment have safety defects, we manage the recalls. Now we can quickly notify you when a recall is issued, so you'll immediately know what to do and how to get the recall fixed for free. NHTSA's new Safer Car app for Android and iOS keeps you informed with critical recall information about your specific vehicle and related equipment directly from the official source. The Safer Car app setup is easy. In 3 quick steps, you can set it and forget it. After downloading the app, simply scan or enter your vehicle identification number, known as the VIN, to put your vehicle into your virtual garage. Add as many vehicles as you like. Enter any additional related equipment you'd like to know about, like tires, car seats, or trailers. Then opt in for notifications and you're good to go. When Safer Car app discovers a recall for the vehicle or equipment you entered, it will send you an alert. While the Safer Car app downloads all relevant recall-related information you'll need from NHTSA and your vehicle's manufacturer, none of your user data is stored at NHTSA. Your privacy matters to us, so your personal information stays only on your device. Essential recall information empowers you to keep you and your passengers safe. Get it right from the source as soon as it's available with the all-new Safer Car app, only from NHTSA. At NHTSA, the voice of highway traffic safety, keeping people safe is what we do. Download the Safer Car app for iOS or Android today.
Chances. No shot is worth it. Go for Rachel.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. If you could see you through my eyes instead of your ego, I believe you'd be surprised to see that you've been blind. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Deciding when to wear a mask isn't about who you know or how well you know them. Just ask yourself, will I be with anyone I don't live with? If the answer is yes, get behind the mask. Help slow the spread of COVID-19. Get behind the mask. Learn more at covid19.ncdhhs.gov.
FEMA is working with communities across the country to be ready for snow and severe winter weather by monitoring for those weather hazards and also developing plans should there have to be a response.
In your home, have the necessary supplies for you, family members, and pets, food, water, medication, important papers.
Also understand that winter storms bring them with them unique challenges. Those could be extended power outages, maybe disrupted communication. So it's important that we consider that as we look at emergency supplies and prepare those for the coming months. That includes our devices themselves are charged if we get indications of an incoming winter storm. We're all connected uniquely now through these devices. That could be our cell phone, our laptops, our tablets. And it's important that we maintain that social connection during this time, particularly because of the challenge of this pandemic.
So living in these pandemic conditions is very important not to lose our guard. Important for families to stay home and in their home protected. But also think about as you travel outside of your home. Remember to take your mask, hand sanitizers. Important for families to also have a car preparedness kit that includes things like food and water, an extra change of clothing should you find yourself in a winter storm condition outside of your home.
We're actively engaging during this current COVID-19 pandemic with our public health partners, both at the Health and Human Services Department, as well as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We're working with them to make sure our state and local partners and those on the front lines of this pandemic have the personal protective equipment that they need, that we are able to expand testing to meet the public's requirements.
Make a plan, have a kit for your home and your car, download the FEMA app, and visit ready.gov for more preparedness information.
Saving lives and preventing injuries on our nation's roads, that's what we do here at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. I'm James Owens, Deputy Administrator of NHTSA. We've made tremendous progress over the last 50 years. Traffic deaths have dropped from more than 52,000 lives lost in 1970 to about 36,000 in 2019. But there are a lot more people in America today than back then. So this change comes as more people are driving more. And today's fatality rate is just 1/4 of what it was back in 1970. To put that in perspective, if we still had the fatality rate of 1970, that would mean nearly 120,000 additional people would have lost their lives just last year. That's almost the exact number of American lives lost fighting in World War I. One of the ways you've helped bring that number down is by buckling up. We've all learned that buckling up is one of the most important ways to protect ourselves while traveling. and seatbelt use is at an all-time high of 91%. About 30 years ago, we were at just 66%. That's tremendous improvement over the last 3 decades. Also, vehicle safety developments and improved safety technologies are keeping us safer on the road. We estimate these safety improvements saved more than 600,000 lives between 1960 and 2012. As NHTSA marks its 50th year, and as we look forward to the next 50, our work continues to build on successful traffic safety programs and to find new ways to drive down traffic deaths even further. Let's work together to continue making progress. Whether you're a driver, a pedestrian, a bicyclist, or a motorcyclist, you play a critical role in making our roads safer. Learn more about risky driving, road safety, and other traffic safety information at NHTSA.gov.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
I want all of the people who are my age to enjoy their golden years.
I mean, it just makes good sense to try to protect yourself.
I've got great-grandchildren out there I haven't seen, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'm asking my seniors and my young people to encourage my seniors and my young people to participate in this process.
What you do to keep yourself healthy helps keep your neighbor, your friends, your relatives, helps keep them healthy too.
I'm excited, relieved, and grateful. And taking the shot is what's best for all.
I encourage all of us to say, I'm not through. There are things I still have left to do, and I'm going to fight this head on. I'm going to get vaccinated.
I feel very much that this allows me to be more in control of my life, less fearful. Doesn't mean I won't wear a mask, I will.
If we take it seriously, we can be past the horrors of 2020.
If you have a spot, take your shot.
You have a spot,
take your shot.
You have a special spot, so please take your shot.
You have a spot.
Take your shot.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to touch frequently touched surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over. Your insurance goes up. You lose your license. You total your car. You kill someone.
Hey, Jimbo, let's go take a ride in my new space truck. Are you crazy? You can't drive. You're space drunk. What? Come on.
Hold it right there.
Captain Cosmic.
Don't you boys realize drinking and driving is a bad idea? Not only can you hurt yourself, but you could seriously injure someone else. I think you need to find a ride home because it's booze it and lose it.
Jason, let's go see your room.
What do you think? We kept it a little spare, so you can decorate it how you like.
Dinner! Here we go.
Excellent. Soccer is fun. Yeah, I saw you guys out there. We're in the family.
What if we start to think about cancer differently, at the beginning? In this special issue of Pediatrics, we invite you to learn more about early life factors that contribute to a person's lifetime cancer risk, about opportunities for preventing cancer from the beginning, as early as the prenatal period, infancy, and throughout childhood. Let's talk about how we can consider cancer causes and prevention now, at the beginning of the lifespan, not only at the middle or the end. This issue will inform and engage pediatricians, policymakers, and families in discussions about cancer prevention.
This is an important message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Has your home recently experienced flooding after a hurricane or other natural disaster? If you have a weakened immune system, you may be at risk for becoming seriously ill from mold. People with weakened immune systems include those who have had a transplant, are getting chemotherapy for cancer, or are taking medications that weaken the immune system. Don't enter buildings with mold damage if you have a weakened immune system or breathing problem like asthma. If you have a weakened immune system and need to clean mold in an indoor area, wear a properly fitted NIOSH-approved N95 mask or one that provides even more protection. Also wear gloves and goggles. You may see or smell mold on furniture, carpeting, or other items that have been wet for more than 24 hours. Assume mold is present, even if it's not visible. Completely dry everything. Clean up the mold and repair any damage. Talk with your healthcare provider if you've recently been exposed to mold and have symptoms that aren't getting better with treatment. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/mold.
When the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, you'll ask yourself, how prepared or unprepared are you? Have you removed objects from over the bed and over your head? Anchored your possessions securely to the wall. It won't be a pain, and you're not doing it in vain. Are your emergency kits packed? What about your family, your friends? Did they know what to do, how to get in touch, and where to meet? Do you know how to drop, cover, and hold on, covering your head and neck? What if you're outside? Or in a car? After the shaking stops, look around. Figure out what to do. Stay away from damaged areas. Turn on a radio. Reach out for help. And if you're trapped, do not move about. Stay calm. Only shout as a last resort. Once everything and everyone is safe, get prepared. An aftershock could be on its way. So before the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, get prepared. Make a plan. Practice what you know, because an earthquake can happen anytime, anywhere. You never know.
A man was critically injured following a crash early Friday morning. Officers at the scene said the victim was driving a pickup truck when he lost control of the vehicle. The pickup veered left and went into a ditch. A front seat passenger was wearing a seatbelt and escaped the crash without injury. The driver was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected from the truck. He died at the scene. Law enforcement writes tickets to save lives.
You'll never catch me, space fools!
He's getting away! Not so fast.
What are we waiting on?
You forgot to buckle your space seatbelt. And if you don't buckle up, you could face a fine up to $179.
Right.
Remember, friends, whether you're the passenger or the driver, it's click it or ticket.
Space Squad!
Operation Lifesaver reminds professional drivers, including cement, dump, and garbage truck drivers, to stay alert when crossing railroad tracks. Due to the weight of your vehicle, you should take extra precautions when approaching and crossing railroad tracks to avoid a devastating crash that could derail a train. However, with the proper rail safety education, you can stay safe and help others stay safe too. What actions should you take at a highway rail grade crossing? First of all, approach crossings with care. For those trucks required by law to stop at crossings because they're transporting hazardous materials, start by using four-way flashers and pull-out lanes if available. Turn off fans, radio, and other distractions. Watch and listen to your surroundings. Be sure to use mirrors to see around your truck. While stopped, look carefully in both directions for approaching trains before you cross. Make sure you can see around obstructions such as mirrors and windshield pillars. If your truck doesn't fit, don't commit. Be sure there is enough room on either side of the tracks for your entire vehicle. Trains overhang the tracks, so for safety, leave at least 15 feet between the rear of your vehicle and the nearest rail. Do not try to beat a train. Trains cannot stop quickly. Be patient and wait. Use the highest gear that allows you to cross the tracks without having to shift midway. If the red lights begin to flash after you start across the tracks, keep going and don't stop. As a professional driver, what signs and signals should you understand at crossings? An advance warning sign warns of a crossing ahead. A crossbuck sign instructs you to yield to a train. The painted stop line before the tracks indicates where to stop. A multi-track sign warns of more than one set of tracks at a crossing. When used, this sign is placed just below the crossbuck at a crossing, and it tells you the number of tracks to expect at that location. Flashing red light signals mean a train is approaching and you must stop. Gates and flashing red lights mean a train is approaching. Do not drive around them. A hump crossing sign means a low vehicle could get hung up on the tracks. A yellow diamond-shaped parallel track sign means there is a railroad crossing immediately after making a turn. Now, let's imagine your vehicle stalls or hangs up on the tracks. What then? Get out of your vehicle, even if you do not see a train. If a train is approaching, get out and run towards the train, but away from the tracks at a 45-degree angle to avoid debris from a collision. If there is no train approaching, get out. Locate the emergency notification system sign and call the phone number on the sign to report your problem. Stay safe and help others stay safe around tracks and trains when you use increased attention when crossing railroad tracks, recognize and obey signs and signals, and act appropriately in the event of a stalled, stuck, or hung up vehicle on the tracks. For more information, visit our website at www.oli.org. Note, local and state laws may be more restrictive than the reminders contained in this video.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Thank you.
Okay, so
We are adjourned.
do this, Charles.
Yes.
Michael, did I give you a pen back?
Yes, ma'am.
I need it back.
Yes, ma'am.
I take it. Yes, I take it with me.